Hello everybody and welcome back to Wobbleville. It's time to hopefully either finish our flyboys or get them close to that point. Because the other one is done. We're going to do some stuff here. We have other things that we can also do. We're going to be putting some more details on our trees over here. I also might break out the green stuff and do some green stuff robes on these guys right here. Because the printed robes, I mean, yeah, they would certainly work. They would be fine. Not a big deal. But I thought it could be really interesting if we did maybe some actual robes and stuff of our own over here. And again, this is from Deval Games here. Those other ones were from the Printing Goes Ever On. Might even also over here might do some saddles or some kind of whatever, maybe some extra fur on some of these guys here just to maybe make them tie in even more. So here what we're going to do is I'm going to do a refresh the chat thing here because wasn't sure if anything weird might have happened. Yeah, sorry Armored Wolf, I had to refresh the chat because when the internet went down, yeah, it kind of messed with the Streamlabs there it looked like. So sorry that I missed you there. And yeah, I think Nessie's definitely going to like that bag. I think Nessie should really like that bag. That's looking sensational. That's really it's interesting too. There's been some really fun and different designs going on with all the metals and stuff. And well, of course, everybody loves the orc bag, but there's definitely some really intricate patterns being cut into that metal nowadays. Actually, be interesting to see bags from like a year and a half ago. That could be very interesting. I'm gonna have to just go peruse the Insta account there and look back like a year and just kind of see in general what some of the extra accoutrement were on some of the bags and all the metalwork and just see, well, I'm sure the production rate has skyrocketed, which is kind of inevitable. Now, this is some, I must call it sculpey. This is Apoxie Sculpt here. It's two-part clay. I've got the part B sitting here in my hand. And I did put this on here maybe 20 minutes ago. Yeah, somewhere around there. Because otherwise, as you recall, it just gets a little bit too soft and smushy to work with. Of course, those as I'm sculpting this here, I just realized, if I had those Lost Kingdoms files, I could have just printed those. Now look at how thin it's getting here. Ah, yeah. Boy, the very first ones with the metal working on them. Man, what was when was the first magnetized Necron bag with the scarabs? When was that one? Was that the summer that the first magnetized Necron Scarab bag made its appearance? So we're gonna need 4 rows of these, I think. Let's get that 4th row in here. Of course, again, looking at the Deval miniatures thing, they did theirs sort of in a similar way, but it was, well, also different. But you're going to see here where it gets really thin, and this is going to be very thick because we've got a little bit of thing going on here. Hey, Silver Tongue, nice to see you again. Hopefully you had yourself I guess a decent week because, well, it's not quite Friday here yet, but it's getting to be Friday. Hopefully your week was, I don't know, at least it wasn't maybe stressful. As we welcome in the Twitcher. Twitcher, how are you doing? Nice to see you too. So this could be a little bit of a wow. There's almost nothing there to sculpt with. That's hilarious, and it's gonna totally change over here because this is gonna just look at this. Look at all the extra epoxy sculpt that's sitting out here, just because of this variation in the wing right here. I mean, it happens. It's these are not meant for production or anything like that. This is just for me to be able to play some games of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, there I have to say, as crazy as the week has been, just it's not anything bad or horrible, anything like that. It has just been non-stop activity. There's been a lot of progress with some different projects here. I think it's going to be weird. There's going to come a time, and I didn't think this was going to ever happen, where I might have more non-GW Lord of the Rings figures than GW Lord of the Rings figures. It's possible because there's so many successful ones that have printed. Oops, these are going the wrong way. These are going the wrong way here. Yeah, I was looking at this and I was orienting all of the folds the wrong, well, this the wrong way. So I'm just going to, don't mind me while I just do this to remind myself. Because, yeah, I was doing this. It's like, yeah, these folds need to be going in the opposite direction, like this. That's a little bit better. Okay. Wow, that would have been interesting. Shada, how you doing? Nice to see you again. How's Zombie Brush Studios doing? And how are those contest entries going? Yeah, that's me. Ever the linguist right there. Yeah, that's me with the whole words and like dictionary and stuff. Yeah, Fido, nice to see you again. So, folks, if the bit rate gets all weird or something like that, I apologize. Just with all of the wind and weird stuff going on here, I have no idea how everything's going to ultimately react here. It was just really nuts all day long. Internet actually, well, the internet doesn't have to go out necessarily. There was a brief power surge, and that's all it takes to kill the internet. It came back in a few minutes, but as we know, while you're streaming, that has a somewhat deleterious effect on things. Yep, Fido, everything is just going to have wings now. Everything's going to have wings. Every single miniature is going to have wings on it. Even the bases are going to have wings. Yeah, everything's just going to have wings on it from this point forward here. Altered Man Art. Where's Altered Man Art? Hey, Altered Man Art. So, folks, be sure to give Altered Man Art a follow because Altered Man Art also loves his Lord of the Rings, and he also does the oil painting stuff, and he also enjoys using the Apoxie Sculpt. Let's see, do you have the link for the detail brushes? Actually, Twitcher, this is going to be, aha, I was just using these in my latest video here. I just found these last week, something like that. It's the Blick, but I think these might actually be sable brushes that work, and they're quadruple zero rounds. They're not triple zero, they're quadruple zeros. And I actually used it. Where the heck did you go? I tried them out for the first time on this. So this was the video I was filming last night. This is one of our Dark Sword videos for the Patreon page here. And believe it or not, there's no fluorescent paint down there. There's cobalt blue even. So I wanted to show folks that you don't need fluorescent paint to be able to do all the object source lighting stuff. Well, yeah, Fido, it's, oh, you think I'm joking. You think I'm kidding. Here, wait, let me see if I can find these for you. Uh, you think, you think I'm joking. Look at these Creebane right here. Yeah, that's for Lord of the Rings there. Haha. Oh, wait till you see a bunch of bases with those on there. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Looking forward to upgrading to wing dice. Actually, yes, wing dice. Anytime they land on something that's not a 6, they take flight again and they change places. Well, Altered Man Art. Actually, I'm probably going to be painting some of the Warg writers from, what the heck is that? Our Imprintable Terrain. Probably going to be on Saturday painting some of the dwarves. Hopefully Khazad-dûm style. Or potentially, what is that? Moria style. No, Iron Hills and maybe Moria too. So Drax, how you doing? Where's the other one here? There he is. So this is another one of our eagles right here because we need that to go with this one that's So this is one of the GW Eagles right here, but I need a Misty Mountains army since, well, all of a sudden I guess I'm doing a lot of Hobbit stuff, so I need that for, yes, Lord of the Wings, Fido. That's, we gotta remember that, Lord of the Wings. After everything's got wings on it. Every helmet has to have wings. Every character, they're all gonna be like winged hussars. Yeah. Every ship is gonna have wings, right? Like the Dol Amroth Swan ships, they'll all have wings on them. Oh, thanks, Fido. Let me see. So, oh, Drax, those were printed from the RM printable. No, sorry, from the Printing Goes Ever On. That's part of their. I think that was their part of their latest release. Yeah, I think it was. There's a giant spider. There was a Watcher in the water. There's all kinds of stuff. All the same ones that. Where's that little Moria goblin here? The same folks that did this guy, if you remember him. So that is the Printing Goes Ever On. Let's see. And folks, be sure to give Drax a follow. So Drax, did you finish the deep can? I guess that is the next question. And look at this. Talk about a money saver. I can print out dozens of these if I want. Oh, but wait, there's more. There's more because somewhere around here, there's also a regular goat. Aha. There's a regular goat here, and there's two poses of each goat, which means I can print out 6 of these. I got me an Iron Hills Chariot. That right there is about 150, 160 bucks, or maybe more, on Forge World right there. So all I gotta say to that is, yeah, baby. Landrast, that's kind of funny, because I figured you might be the first one in. I thought you might be the first one in, but Landrast, it's okay because, well, Armored Wolf pretty much half the time doesn't get the notifications, I think. And that's kind of, you'd think of all folks he'd get them, but nope, he a lot of times does not get the notifications. So yeah, Drax, sorry that I missed the Wednesday stream. So folks, usually Drax's stream on Sunday through Wednesday in kind of these later hours here. Also does a lot of stuff with the oil paints. Does an awful lot of stuff with 40K, Sigmar. Also gonna get yourself some Karawadjik busts and, oh, what the heck, probably some Scale 75, probably some Nocturna, probably some Big Child Creatives, and probably a whole bunch of other stuff too. Okay, I think we've got that pretty much laid out now. Yeah, Landress, when the heck did we start this thing here? We probably started it at 11:30, maybe 11:31 Central. I think we're all caught up. Yep, Fido. So what I have to try and do is during the day tomorrow, I'm gonna have to try and get as many of those Warg Riders on bases as I can. I think we're also gonna paint a couple of these ring wraiths right here. I'm really curious to try and paint these guys up. So there's 2 of these. They're from Diwali Games. I'm just gonna assume that's how you say their name. Of course, when you assume, that's we all know what the first 3 letters of that word are. Let's see. Yep, Armored Wolf is definitely working on more dice bags. That's pretty much a given. Those are always being worked on. And there's some pretty amazing ones. I just got a chance to see a commission one right before I started here. And yep, as you would expect, it looks really amazing. So definitely check out the Armored Wolf Etsy page for all things dice bag, but just in general leather related. So now these feathers starting to get bigger, but remember we also have to add some of the, over here we got to extend out those feathers a little bit too. Let me see. Twitcher, I have not. I've never actually painted any Gundam stuff. Drax might have done that. Actually, I wonder if Nessie's ever used oils on a Gundam, but of all the people here in the chat, I would say Drax is the one most likely to have possibly tried doing that. Look at this. Look what's happening here. See how we're getting these to fold one under the other right here? All right, so then then that means you are gonna come up short here when it comes to Gundam stuff. Nessie did send us a Gundam kit, but Kathy sort of claimed that for hers. So we are still Gundamless here, and that's fine because I just don't know when I'd ever get a chance to do something like that. We've got one or two other projects going on. I think we'll be good. I think we have a few things to keep us occupied. Just like the wings or the feathers on that last row, feathers on this row also need to kind of pile up one above the next. But here's where it gets that epoxy sculpt gets really deep because you have that big old crevice here in the armature. Mostly because I wanted to be able to use the gray extra firm Sculpey, but shipping is delayed all over the place. But it was even more delayed at the time that I ordered that stuff. Okay, so I think now we're pretty good here with our one thing piled above the. I actually do have some epoxy sculpt. Hey, Bitron, how are you doing? And Aben fell. Nice to see you guys. Yeah, Twitcher, I would. I think you'd have some fun with it too. Here, I'm just gonna throw some of this on here, and then we're just gonna leave it there, right? So that we can sculpt some more on this later. But see how that's disintegrating a bit there with all of the water? That's kind of what you would expect from it. Here, wait, let's there we go. It's like I think I needed some more somewhere else. I seem to remember having some tinfoil armature showing. See a little bit of tinfoil armature right over there too. Yep, so Bitron, I hope that you're having yourself a decent week so far. I can't believe it's already Thursday, but the printing stuff, kind of excited about that. Kind of excited about that, the way that has gone. I actually did hollow out a fig. Well, where the heck did she go? Of course, that is now buried somewhere. Here it is. So I'd never actually tried this before. This thing had to be hollowed, and it had to, of course, there's supports all on the inside. Look at all the supports they printed on the inside. That's hilarious. I don't think that's supposed to happen. Maybe it is. I don't know. It's probably not supposed to happen, but actually, I might do this more often because why remove those supports, right? Why take those out? It probably is one of the reasons why it actually printed is because of those stupid supports there. Oh, that's supposed to happen, Landrist? Okay. I'm glad because it's beyond me how the heck you would get rid of those. Because you'd have to close off the holes, which doesn't that kind of defeat the entire purpose of having the holes? What was really weird is when I was watching some of the videos and I saw where people would keep the little holes, right? I think, why the heck would you want to keep that piece that's been cut out? But sometimes people are literally, I mean, they would literally like cut out a piece of the feathers here or something like that to make a drainage hole. And all of a sudden I could, oh, okay, I could see that. That I could understand. So they still need the supports inside when how it makes way more sense, Landrast. Thanks for just kind of confirming that, because I was thinking, how the heck is that going to work without the supports on the inside? Won't it just create the same kind of errors that it would on the outside? So Well, I guess I had that right. I'll swing this around the other way here. And we have to, as always, we gotta shove one feather under the next. Now, keep in mind, as always, with the water and epoxy sculpt, it's a little different than water and grain stuff. The water and with the grain stuff is just simply to keep it from sticking to the tool, sticking to you. With the epoxy sculpt, water is different. The water actually can change the consistency of your epoxy sculpt, and it can change the cure time. It can definitely alter that. That the more water you put in there, the longer it's going to take to cure. Yep, there could still be islands inside. Yeah, Landris. Yeah, I hadn't heard the term island until I was starting to watch those videos. And I guess what I'm gonna have to start doing on some of these ones where I might just have to do the support. So if you just turn it upside down, it automatically shows you those red zones, the hot zones, right? Where, okay, this part you're gonna want to support this a little more. I'm fairly certain that's how that works. And I might start to add individual supports and eliminate certain supports too. You know how it is, just baby steps, right? Just baby steps. Hey, it's just like with the oils, right? Where I say, look, take a simple figure like this, take two colors, one light, one dark, and have at it that way. That's kind of how I'm approaching some of this other stuff with the printing here. Because some of the videos that I'm seeing, well, they're either contradictory or actually, Kath and I were having a discussion here. They might be older, and printing technology might have changed, and some of the things that they're talking about might not apply anymore. So there's a couple of things like that that I'm starting to wonder about. Bitron, 50 Moria goblins, painting like a champion there. Bitra, if you got any pics of them or something like that on Insta or whatever, feel free to toss a link in the chat there. And if you wanted to send me pics on Instagram or something like that, it would be really nifty. It would be very cool to see the Moria army. So yeah, if you want to just shoot me some pictures or something like that on Insta, that would be pretty cool. Get to see those guys. Again, the knife comes underneath here, lifts this up. We can all that white that you see, that is the sculpey armature that's underneath here. Rhapsody Studios in the house. So Rhapsody, I got a chance. I saw some of the pictures of your commission there with all the chibi figures on your Instagram. That was looking fabulous there. If you wanted to throw that link into the chat or whatever, so people could see what you've been painting on your. Well, I'm sure that was on and off stream. I'm sure there was some of that probably also painted off stream. And definitely, folks, give Rhapsody Studios a follow so that maybe Rhapsody can get to their next milestone goal in their followership. We like to do that. Heck, we can have extra hype trains that way. We all know how fun hype trains are. Alright, oh man, see? I almost was tempted to have that feather going in the wrong direction. Alright, so just at the last second there, we were able to kind of get that one solved. Okay, do we have our full? Yes, we have. For a second there, I was like, wait a minute, did I short myself a row of feathers right here? And then I looked and I did another little count and I went, nope, I have my 4. I have my 4 rows of feathers here. Let's get with the epoxy sculpt. It's important to give it some time. So we put this on here about 20-ish minutes or so before the stream. I didn't do anything with it except just put it on the miniature. That's all I did. When we talked about the analogy, gosh, I think it was even on Monday during the stream, the whole bread in the proving drawer idea. You're just letting that epoxy sculpt, just like the oils, you let that epoxy sculpt set for a little bit. Rhapsody, this is the second one right here that I sculpted. I've got the third one in plastic that's already painted, but what I'm going to do now is just see if I can't maybe get just a couple of individual files from Lost Kingdom and just see if I can get the wings from these guys, because if I just had gotten in on this Lost Kingdoms right here, I would have had as many wings as I wanted to print, and they're basically the perfect size. So I could have just had these. So that was me being stupid. Well, having the cash available at the time also is kind of important. That would be sort of important too. But if I had those, I could have just printed these things out. So I'm going to try and just buy those files. I only need one of the Wind Riders. I don't even know if they come as a whole set. I just need one. I just need one set of those stupid wings. That's all I need. And pretty much I can print all the wings that I'm going to need for every bird, every horse, every base, every tank, because everything's getting wings. Hey, Stompy. Nice to see you again. Yeah, Landrest, if that's possible, are all the wings on all three of them the same, or are there some slight variations? I couldn't quite tell. I was going to try and get the other two potentially assembled tomorrow as well. And that one I couldn't handle that one because it was wet and everything. I didn't want to mess around with it. So I couldn't really make a good comparison there. And I just didn't want to be losing parts to the other one or getting them mixed up. That's I was kind of worried about that. But I think it would only take 2 sets, 3 max. Even heck, the third set I could probably just use for Prinkles or something like that. But it seemed like the wings on that particular Pegasus right there, they would pretty much be ideal for this type of pose. As much as I kind of like the other sort of eagle poses where their tail ends are out and doing all this other stuff, that's just too complicated. I would love the challenge of doing that. I just don't have the time for that. There's too many other things that I also have to do. So, yeah, that would be fantastic to have some more of the wings there. Now, I'll have to look on their, oh gosh, probably just their, whatever on their site there to see if you can just get them individual. I think maybe you can't. Maybe that's what someone was saying in the chat on Monday. They might have been saying that you can't get those, and maybe, I don't know, unless maybe you're a patron. Well, let's see. Landrest, I think they were just the right scale as what they were at. It's hard for me to get this around the thing here. They're basically just the right scale. I mean, that is pretty much. And here, let me grab the Lord of the Rings eagle right here. I mean, they're pretty much that same size. If it's maybe a 5% difference, I don't think anybody's going to notice whatsoever. So just at the size those were at, that should pretty much do the job. Now, and Bitron has posted all of the Moria goblins there. So I think originally what I was going to do for this Saturday was going to have the Khazad-dûm dwarves so that I could do all of the the fun basing and the object source lighting and all that kind of stuff on them. But the printing goes ever on. I think their campaign is about to end. Maybe it's ending this weekend or something. And they were kind of hoping that maybe I could do another thing like we did a few weeks ago. So that's why I'm trying to get a bunch of these printing goes ever on figures ready. Printing out all those dwarves. Actually, I think one's going to finish and not too long from now. So I will immediately have to run downstairs, take that off of the plate, and get the next thing going. And as Landrest already knows, it is an entire fleet of left hands. Literally, it's just a ton of everything left-handed. There might be a couple of, maybe there's some bodies on there or whatever, but everything else is pretty much just left hands. Because as it turns out, I was printing everything right-handed. Shields, spears, axes, clubs, bare hands, open hands. Next thing I knew, all I had was a bunch of figures with one hand on them. And shields going in some pretty weird places. So I was like, yeah, shields on the right hand, not so much. So we changed that plan around a little bit. And he would be Pwinkles. Would that have to be? Oh, that would have to be his new name. Yes, that way it wouldn't just be Prinkles. It would be Pwinkles. It would be Prinkles' cousin, Pwinkles. So Landrest, you'll have to remind me of that because I don't want to forget that because that would be hilarious. Okay, Sauce, how you doing? Nice to see you again. Hope that you're able to get through the week relatively unscathed. Relatively unscathed. Does sometimes the week takes more of a toll than other weeks? Actually, the week just got better because the state of Illinois decided to follow the Fed's lead. So I actually now have more time in April than I thought I was going to have. So that is good. So this is the one area where things are going to get kind of interesting here because this is where it's all, I mean, there's a lot. There's a whole bunch of the Apoxie Sculpt there. And here, I'm going to actually take some of this. This down here. Do I have any more prepped? Nope, I think I used all of the prepped Apoxie Sculpt. So I might just have to even mix some more just so that I have it on hand. So K-Sauce, what kind of fun stuff have you been working on? Or hopefully you've had a chance to keep going with hobby things. As we keep going with these wings here. So this is starting to, it's not set up or anything by any means, but boy, I mean, this stuff that's really hard when it cures. That stuff is nice and hard. All right, these feathers, they're not quite, there we go. I think these outer ones, yeah, these outer ones were kind of going up and over, but the inner ones, not so much. And then this is where it gets a little bit tricky here. This is where we're trying to fold one feather under the other. It's like we're trying to pull these feathers up off of the wing here. Rhapsody Studios sounds like they are not having so much fun building things. And I concur. I completely concur, which is why Landrest has been hearing me say every 5 seconds, holy smokes, I can't believe how easy this is to put together. It took, I could probably put together an entire box of these, and the GW Warg Riders are not complicated. And the plastic ones, I mean, this still would take less time than dealing with a box of the plastic Warg Riders. And of course, that Pegasus Knight that you saw, holy smokes. If that had been any kind of an actual just regular resin cast, I'd still be trying to assemble that thing today. I'd still be trying to assemble that. I mean, even the the GW stuff that has the instructions and the stuff that, I mean, it fits together pretty, all their plastic stuff, that pretty much fits together. And boy, Landrest, I think the Creebane, I don't even know if you can buy those on the Warlord, I'm sorry, Forge World site. I didn't see them on there. Well, I had to do a search because I looked for them in their category, didn't see them there. I had to just do a generic image search, and then it finally came up because I needed to know what base they go on. They go on a 40 millimeter base. Oh, and apparently they're part of the Legendary Legion because I couldn't find them in any army book. I'm thinking, wait a minute, I've seen these used in a bunch of battle reports. Where the heck are they? What army book are they? Have to be in Isengard. Well, they're not in Isengard anywhere. Yeah, Bithron. I'm going to try and get, I think I've got 5 of these. I'm going to try and get these on bases for tomorrow night. Now, these guys are a little bit smaller. I'm going to use these for Angmar, I believe. So it's going to be more of an Angmar theme. The really big, oh gosh, where the heck are they here? Are these the ones? Ah, these guys are much bigger. So I'm going to use these for, oh gosh, for Isengard right here. Going to use those for Isengard. But then what I want to do is try and print out this wolf here at maybe 115% size and maybe shrink these goblins down to 80% size, 85%. Yeah, maybe 80%. And to make the marauders, where you got 3 goblins riding on here. So plus up the wolf, shrink down the gobos. Actually, I think I could probably go 85 and 110. Yeah, Landress, the Creebane were definitely a Forge World thing. But after much searching, I finally found that they go on 40 millimeter round base. I thought that's what they went on. That's what it looked like in all the battle reports. But I just wanted to be sure. Just wanted to be sure. So yes, they go on 40 millimeter rounds. And actually, so do the bat swarms. Which means I'm going to have to either start crafting some 40 millimeter round bases or see if the Printing Goes Ever On has some 40 mils. I know they have some 40 mils, I think. So I might just grab some of those and just print those. Because, well, we kind of paint 1 or 2 cavalry figures here. Let's see, but the legs won't fit around it. Actually, Landress, they don't ride it like a conventional, like a jockey would. They basically have a little howdah on top of it. There's like a mini howdah that sits on there, and they actually kind of stand in the howdah. Or they're just standing on his back, maybe with their legs strapped to it. So yeah, they don't actually ride. I was thinking the same thing myself. I thought, wait a second. If I do that, their legs aren't going to fit around there. Until I realized, well, wait a minute, their legs don't fit around the regular one because they're standing on top of it, or they're in a howdah. So that is the plan for the Marauders. Landress, yeah. What might you see on a Sculpting Thursday, huh? You might see some Marauder howdahs being sculpted for the Moria army. So that's why I figured I wanted to have those goblin riders as my Isengard. Then I would have because I want the wild wargs to be more like fell wargs, so they'll look bigger than these Printing Goes Ever On wargs by a little bit, which might make them look a little bit more of like a fell warg sort of a thing. So, and I actually remember because Kathy she was trying to make a Gundabad army. And she actually painted a bunch of black shields. I'm pretty sure she actually painted a bunch of those. And she actually has some of the nasty Forge World Marauders down there, which it took 10 blister packs just to be able to get one of those things because all of the hideous fail cast parts and everything else. So we're going pretty good here on our feathers. One under the next, right? One under the next one. On the trees, I was hoping to sculpt a little bit of that shelf fungus type stuff, maybe some extra branches, some extra tree texture there. There was other things that I was kind of hoping to be able to do here, just the day got a little bit too busy, a little too crazy. So I thought, well, we have our birdies here, we have our trees, we can still finish those off. I was actually hoping to be able to make some bases tonight, but that will have to wait. Because, well, last night I was just, it was really, especially late into the night filming the latest Dark Sword video here, and this is pretty wild because, again, no fluorescent paints on this, and there was no traditional pre-glaze either. It's actually drying faster than I thought it would, but yet no traditional pre-glaze on here where we just slap colors and then wipe them away. It was very different. The video is uploaded. I'll probably throw it up tomorrow before the stream starts. So that's part of your Dark Sword pledge level there. Well, it's also part of the Army Painter pledge level. But there's been so many conversations. Now, someone did send me a message that they were able to find in the UK a source for the Marion Street fluorescents. But I thought, okay, it's time to really show folks that you don't have to have the fluorescence to be able to do object source lighting. And that was why I did that for the most part. Also, I wanted to show a different approach to the pre-glaze, and also I wanted to show, well, cobalt blue. Now, I did order some, what the heck is that, cadmium orange today. So there is cadmium orange on the way, along with more of those quadruple zero, along with more, whoops, that's not it. That's the 000. Here we go. This is the one I'm looking for here. So there's more of these on the way. But I do believe that is an actual, that's an actual sable, not a schmable, because those are normally $15 and they were on sale for $7. Of course, saying that, they'll probably all be gone by tomorrow. Yeah, Aben fell, right? Weren't we talking about that? To just say, okay, look, instead of the Marion Street fluorescent, look, here's cadmium orange. And that should be, because scarlet is as orange as that is. But even when you add, say, a cadmium orange or a cadmium yellow deep to it, it doesn't necessarily get that much lighter. It kind of turns more yellowy. Doesn't really have that same orange kind of punch to it anymore. So it should be really interesting to see how that plays out as we welcome in frozen toes. Hopefully your toes are no longer frozen because it's, well, here it's not getting all that much warmer. Fluorescents are notoriously fugitive. Frozen toes, I've used in 2D art, I've used Dr. Martin's dyes and all kinds of stuff that, was, that says, it's, not light fast and all that. And all the paintings are just fine after decades. And by decades, I mean close to 30 years. They're not exposed to direct sunlight. I don't know if any color is going to withstand that too much. But you're mixing the fluorescence with so many other colors, you're barely using the fluorescence. They're just there to augment the other colors. So that's why I don't really worry about any kind of a transitory nature there, because they're definitely not on their own. they're mostly being mixed with cadmiums, and ran right there. I mean that's definitely going to give it some support. If the weather is warm for frozen toes, yeah, here it was back down in the 30s. The wind, of course, at about 45 miles an hour for the last 3 days, it seems like. And well, it snowed here earlier and a couple days ago. Armored Wolf got way more snow than we did by, a few feet. Let's see, I was struggling for a minute, but it's gorgeous after about 10 minutes on the miniatures. One of those colors that goes on a little bit different than you think. That's, well, even Phil, it's sort of like the cadmium scarlet, right? And what? Cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is one of those colors that just goes on different. You see it on the palette, you put on the miniature, it just does not look the same, which I think is positively hilarious. Now let's see, frozen toast saw 12 degrees Celsius, so that's got to be 12, that's got to be 53-ish or something like that, maybe. 53, 55, something like that Fahrenheit. Yeah, Aben fell. Cobalt Blue was kind of dead and gone, but then we worked on Mr. Giggles, right? And that's kind of changed everything, changed the fate of Cobalt Blue. We used it on the Wind. I keep wanting to call it Wind Dancer, but it's Wind Rider. We used it on this guy too, and it was. I got the brightness and everything turned way down here. Holy smokes, 53.6. So yep, that's my Celsiometer was not too far off there. That's not too shabby. Man, the cadmium yellow pale. It's funny because I don't know how much I really used that back in the day. Well, I didn't really have cadmiums back in the day. We mostly had hues, I think. I don't think we had a whole lot of actual cadmiums because art students, well, yeah, they're buying cadmiums there. That's a bit on the pricey side. Oh, let me see. So, Daimi, how you doing? Uh, oh, that's right. You were in the chat thing, right? That Kathy was in there. Hopefully everything's going good for you. Look at this. Nice feathers folded one over the next. Hey, Grumdy, how you doing? Nice to see you again. So yeah, tomorrow it's going to be some warg riders and some. Where the heck did they go? Yeah, a couple of these guys right here. Some. Well, they could be dark riders, but I was kind of also hoping to maybe, since they're different, use them as some of the other named ring rates for Lord of the Rings. And you can see each time here we pull that out just a bit more. Pull it out just a little bit more. Now I know Stila is doing her 12-hour stream, right? I think she started that how many hours ago? I think she probably started that about 7. So how far is she into that? It's a minute. So she's maybe almost halfway through that. And I figured that's where we would go to raid when we were done here. So that, there's nothing like somebody who's probably going to be really tired after streaming for 12 hours, that we hit her with a raid or something like that. Yeah, she's painting one of that giant artisan guild thing, right? I got to see her doing the pre-glaze part on there. I don't think she'd even had a chance to wipe it off yet before I had to head on out and get doing a whole bunch of other things. Okay, I think these front ones here I can finally get down to really lifting these things up here. I know that one angle on these, or one wing, is a little bit easier to see than the other one necessarily. Dose, how are you doing? Nice to see it. Grundy's getting a 3D printer that arrives tomorrow. Yeah, Dio, she said that you had to be, I think, what, one of the first ones out, right? Because you had to go do your thing there. Well, hopefully the podcast recording went well. And you're able to get a fun set of topics to talk about. Yeah, so Grundy, I'm definitely gonna, well, let's put it this way. Actually, one of the, well, yet another 3D printing that they were talking to me today, and they said, well, why don't you just kind of point out what you do and ask one of those makers of the printers to say, well, why don't you send me one, and then I can, you know, paint the results from your printer. And I didn't even think of that. I didn't project any of them even listening to anything I said. So, but they said I should try it. So I don't know. Maybe I will. This feather and a couple of these other ones also. So we're gonna kind of push it this way. It's a little bit like what we do with our cloaks, right? Yeah, push this in. Now we're gonna take it in the other direction here. So Deuce, I hope that you're doing well. Here we go. Yeah, now we'll pull these back out, and they're going to look a whole lot more round and more flat. Then we'll have to get our feather texture in here, but it's one of the last things that I want to do with these guys, because that's where we also want to make sure that this had a chance to set up as well as possible here. Oh, so I don't know if I sent some pictures to Armored Wolf into Landrast, but Green Stuff World apparently has to go look at their Instagram. I'll just let you go look at their Instagram, because apparently, I don't know if they're calling it their version of mica powder paints or whatever, but in their descriptions it was sounding eerily like the way I described the mica stuff about the control and everything else, and actually being able to shade it as opposed to the color shift paints, which you cannot shade. And I can only imagine that maybe they came out with those because the whole color shifting paints thing has kind of lost its luster as people have kind of realized you can't really shade those. Oh, let's see. Dana Howe just released a video about 3D printed minis from a printer she got from a sponsor. Well, I don't know. It kind of only serves right for all of the art supplies that we sell for Dick Blick and Winsor Newton and Gamlin and everybody else. It would be funny if anybody was to do something like that, that it would be a 3D printing outfit instead of just, I don't know, a company that makes paint. So yeah, so dudes, go check out our Green Stuff World's Instagram there, and you'll see that. I was very surprised to see that. I think it's maybe 5 colors because, well, there's pretty much just the 5 colors of interference, and they actually referred to them as interference. Yes, they referred to those as interference stuff. I distinctly remember that word being used by them there in their description of it. That Landrest, actually, I really don't get any of that stuff from Amazon. I know people are getting sometimes the starter sets from Amazon, but I don't actually really know how to do the Amazon affiliate link thing. Because actually, well, when you think about it, it would Dick Blick is the one that really they kind of owe me the affiliate link right there because of all the stuff we get from there. And a decent chunk of it has their name on it too, like those Dick Blick brushes, right? Grumdy, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. Well, and if it's cadmiums, right? If it's cadmiums, that's nothing to sneeze at. That is nothing to sneeze at. Cadmium colors. You only got to order 4 tubes of those to probably get to a Benjamin there pretty easy. Yeah, Landris, I think they do. I guess, well, I was thinking more if I can, if I could get the merch stuff going as well. That's something that I really want to get going here because at first we just didn't know what to do. Okay, what the heck would people want? It was just going to be like it was going to be the Wapelius Spellbrush figure on a mug or a T-shirt or something like that. I just didn't realize at the time that the Book of Wapel thing was going to become quite so popular there. So that is definitely something. You could have your super luxury version that's actually a volume, and then you could have just the stickers there. Flight Sim, how you been doing? Nice to see you again. All right, let's look at what we got going on here. I think we need to, just like with the oils, sometimes we have to simplify. We've got too much complexity going on right over here. Way too much complexity here. We're going to simplify this a bit. There we go. Let's simplify you. This one too, I don't think I necessarily have to simplify that one, but this needs to be reformed a bit. That's better. And then this one also reformed a bit. And then we can get down to the trying to get some actual feather textures here. There's not a whole bunch to work with. Right here, see all that white? That's actually sculpey right there. I mean, I can press that in there all I want. There's not going to be any texture there. However, nice thing is I could use a sculpting tool or whatever to do that. Now here I think I can. Yep, there's just enough Apoxie Sculpt here to get a little bit of texture going right there. See, oh, you got a 124 scale or 75 millimeter figures. Have you made figures from the UFan brand? Nope. Actually, I am not familiar with that. Not familiar with that one. And I haven't done anything at 1/24th scale. It's kind of been, well, I mean, there's the busts that are probably, what, 1/6, 1/8, 1/10, 50/50 there. The half life-size busts, holy smokes, from Blackheart Models. Thanks, Grumdy. Yeah, of course, after doing this thing and putting together this one here, realizing that, yep, just printing that out, all I would have to do was sculpt a body, and boom, could have had a whole fleet of eagles. Could have had an entire aircraft carrier filled with eagles in no time at all. because in the time it took to print out probably maybe 3 wings. Actually, Landrest, how many of those wings could you fit on the plate? Well, of course, if it's my Elegoo, maybe less than some folks now with the printers they've got and the capabilities those have. But for me, I might be able to squeeze 3 onto a plate. Maybe. Yeah, nope, not familiar with the U-fans, unfortunately. Not familiar with those. Are they historical genre or is it a variety of genres? Thanks, Grimdy. Yeah, I know sometimes. Well, I'm never always quite sure how the sculpting streams will be received because, well, people don't typically see sculpting. But well, Armin and Wolf and we talked about it a bunch, and well, we thought maybe there needs to be some sculpting on Twitch. Yeah, I know it's not gonna draw in 100 viewers or something like that. It would be nice if it would, but I don't see it doing that. To me, I have learned a whole bunch doing. Well, first it was the robes and the armor, the typical sort of conversion type stuff. But I really did want to get into actual scratch sculpting. I think I'm just trying to think ahead to next Thursday and what we might be doing then. It could end up being a basing stream because there are hundreds of figures that are going to need bases. And it just might have to be basing Thursday. We did one of those a couple Thursdays ago before ReaperCon. Let's see, they're more fantasy to realistic. Yeah, I have not heard of those guys before, but uh, there's other like Big Chug Creatives, Nocturna. Was it Pegaso is another one. Those are I really would like to get their stuff, but now in this age of 3D printing, I just am dealing with resin kits and all that kind of stuff. I really do the 3D printing stuff is so much superior to dealing with any resin kit. Zero mold lines. They literally are almost designed to snap together. No warped parts or anything like that. No mold release. But there's also no avocado kids, which that's a bad thing. Avocado kids, how you doing? Folks, be sure to give avocado kids a follow. So avocado kids, how was work treating you this week? Was it another one of those backbreakers again? But yeah, Landris, I think that's probably what next Thursday is going to have to be. I'll probably be needing to make more bases. Well, I was hoping to do a couple of basing videos. One on our Pirates of Middle Earth, right? Our Umbar guys. We want to do that kind of a ship-based type thing. And then we wanted to do the bases for our Dunlending / Isengard stuff, where they're basically just kind of marching through some destroyed, burning Rohan villages. So how long have we had this stuff on her? So this stuff has been on her about an hour and a half, maybe. And you can still see it's very easily workable here at this point. Really easy to work this stuff, even after an hour and a half. That's why I put it on here before the stream started. Avocado Kids, yep, this is the usual late Thursday time right here. I would like it if it could start at 10:30, but it typically starts at 11:30 instead. Tomorrow night is when and Monday, those are usually somewhere around a 6:30 Central start time. But yeah, Thursdays are the late night stream here. Usually because, well, just like today, I was uploading a video, and I think that finished right around 9:45-ish, something like that. And folks, be sure to give Avocado Kids a follow. So Avocado Kids, how'd that piece go in your
Hello,
last
little
stream there?
hobbits. Spark my ganja.
And thank you so much for that follow. Let's see, is that Strem there? Stremble. Thank you so much. Kano says, hello, little hobbits. He's like, don't say it. So what would I say? Don't say it. Oh, okay, fine. I won't say, fly, you fools. Ah, we're gonna kill him, right? Dude, wake up. How do we do that? Well, I think we just drop him in that volcano they keep talking about. Hey, we could stick the ring on him and dump him in the volcano. Kill two birds with one stone. Ha! That's for you, Avocado Kids. It's Friday for me. Yep. Well, what is it? Oh, we have oil painters. We are time lords because we literally control time. We control that. Actually, sort of with the Apoxie Sculpt, you kind of are there too, because you're controlling the drying time. Yeah, I used to be much more able to tell Australian time relative to our own because I always had to be figuring out when the Bulldogs games were going to be starting. But I've just unfortunately had to kind of get away from all of my usual sports stuff. It's really weird to think that I used to have ESPN on 16 hours a day. And here's an excerpt from Two Giant Eagles trashing one of those old Maiar dudes, man. Yeah, I've well, I don't know. It's we have the cast of characters here, right? We have that full cast of characters, just like Jeeves and Wooster here. He's like, hey, was that? Did I just hear that old dude around here, man? Just ignore him. He smells bad. He sure does. What was that? Hey, you got any ganja? What about you guys? I think you might have some. That's we were just talking about that earlier today. All right, Frozen Toes, you have a good one. Hopefully we'll see you tomorrow. Hopefully we see you tomorrow. I think AM Tellies, how you doing? Yeah, we also have to get some more things done on our. Actually, now that you mention that, we are going to set you off to the side here real quick. Which one of these had? Ah, there's some new Apoxie Sculpt right there. Yep. For a second, I thought maybe I was mistaken, but nope. There's some fresh Apoxie Sculpt sitting there. Well, sort of. Some Apoxie Sculpt I put there about 25 minutes ago. So that we can get in here and do some more of our texture. And these guys, we also put those on a while ago so that they would start to cure just a smidge. Nothing fresh is there. Thanks, Frozen Toes. We'll see ya. MTIL is, well, let's see. That's why we love the Badger Stynylrez primer so much because, well, we have the airbrush thing, but in a pinch, you can just brush this stuff on. We've been doing it for years. Because there was a time where I used to have a whole bunch of airbrush stuff. Then there was a long time where we didn't have any airbrushes. Oh yeah, also folks, be sure to give M Tillies a follow because M Tillies has also been doing streaming. So yes, I sorry about that, M Tillies, forgot. Let me see. So Landrest, is that your typical? Gosh, not 5x7, or are build plates 5x7? They might be 5x7, or is that a larger build plate? I know you told me which one you have and the plate size and all that. But 5 pairs, well, I guess maybe they're a little bit more of an angle than I was thinking. I mean, I know they're going to be printing at an angle, but I think maybe that angle is even more than I thought. So I think that's a 3x5 or 5x7 then maybe. Okay, we've got some texture there. Where's our other tree that I know also has? I just, yep, because I felt that with my finger there. So here, let's start getting some tree-like texture on this. And as always, we're going to be shifting that tool this way and that way, not just straight lines. See, that kind of takes this little dog leg like so. Speaking of warg riders. Sea eels, rubby leak. Okay. It's interesting how the footy fans, they don't seem to be super enthralled by rugby players coming in and playing footy. They are just not. They don't seem to be very much in favor of that. For whatever reason, they seem to want those two sports to remain very much separate. They don't really like the crossover there. The alternate mounts have different wings too, so it might be 6 different pairs. Holy smokes! Wow, Landa, I thought you were gonna say maybe you could get 2 pairs max, but that's some sensational news. And let me see. Okay, that makes more sense, Landrest, that you can fit that many. That's not what I would have expected. I would have thought that they would be more at what, 30-degree angles, something like that. Yeah, let's keep going with our texture in here. Then we might just break out the green stuff as well and start to throw some of our little shelf fungus on here maybe. Let's see. Yep, Flight Sim, I realized that. Yep. Because I actually had seen way more games of Aussie rules football than rugby. It's really hard to find that. Well, I don't have ESPN, so the only reason I found Aussie rules was just because for a while there was a public TV station here that was showing a lot of international programming, and they just happened to be showing Aussie rules. And I remember the Gold Coast Suns when they're in their inaugural season, they got their, well, outside of taking, was it Gary Ablett from Geelong, one of their big players was a guy that he was a rugby star, and boy, his own fans were booing him every time he touched the ball. Yeah, Flight Sim, there's not too many marking contests in rugby, that's for sure. Not too many marking. It's well, you're playing one on a cricket field, and the other one is being played on almost more of a football field type of a size there. So Avocado Kids, this is Apoxie Sculpt over a Sculpey armature. So you got Sculpey underneath here. There's Sculpey clay sitting right there. It's just like our Great Beast of Golgoroth. Remember him? Remember our Easterling chieftain and also our Galadriel. So it's the same idea here. There's your Sculpey underneath and the Apoxie Sculpt on top. So I think we've got that worked out reasonably well there. Now let's just get this birdie. I'm gonna get this thing off to the side here because it's a 100% guaranteed chance of me sticking my finger into that. So let's not have that happen. We're also going to maybe set our epoxy sculpt off to the side. And then we're going to start to maybe build ourselves a little bit of green stuff here. We got some robes that we want to sculpt on these guys right here. Let's see. So Avocado Kids, you'll have to explain, not quite sure what you mean there. You'll have to fill me in. You'll have to fill me in. Now, we don't want to use too much of this, remember, right? Just not too much. Also, are we going to be using more blue than yellow? And these are the tubes of it. You can see how they just kind of deform right away. So I just throw the stuff in a plastic bag to keep it apart. Avocado Kids, nothing replicates nature better than nature. However, this right here is a hollow plastic figure that weighs next to nothing. So on a stick is fine with that little thing right there. Unfortunately, this birdie weighs a ton right here. This thing is really, really heavy. And I need something that's really, really strong for that extra support there to support that weight. I also needed a very specific shape right here. So unfortunately, that is where nature gets superseded right there. Hey, Trashorama, how you doing? Nice to see you again. So we put another on our other birdie here. We just did another wing while we're waiting for that to set up a little bit. We're grabbing our green stuff here. We got to put some stuff on the trees, but I was just going to sculpt some cloaks on these guys right here from the Printing Goes Ever On. Let's see. So, yeah, Avocado Kids, the practicality of something like this, which, I mean, this probably weighs by itself a good 4 ounces or something like that. That stick would have no chance of holding up, so that's why we've got this here, because there's tinfoil on the inside. This is actually a big blob of Sculpey here on top of another blob of Sculpey, so it's a counterweight. Remember the Witch King? How we had all that extra weight there? It's kind of the same idea, is that we have all that extra weight. All right, so we want to have more blue than yellow, more blue than that. Let's see, so Trashorama, how are you doing? And Lady B, same to you. Hopefully you've got some more fun, either 2D art planned for the weekend. Because I did see your latest Instagram post there. Now, is this going to be enough? This may not be quite enough. We'll see. We might have to mix some more together. So yeah, Trashorama, I am very excited here. Well, we have our first of our Warg Riders set up there, but we've got, here they are. Where's our little goblin? Yeah, our goat riders here. Look at this. Yeah, this right here is like having millions of freed hours because instead of Forge World nasty resin goats, we have all kinds of options because they also have unarmored goats, and I can make a chariot out of these. So if I make 2 chariots, I've already saved, well, and a ballista, I've already saved how much? Probably about $300 right there. So that's the printing that goes there. Printing Goes Ever On, Trash. The same guys that did remember the little goblins and these elves. Actually, these are also from the Printing Goes Ever On. So there you go. Hey, you got a quarter? Not really. If you do, I'll buy it off you for a nickel. I don't have a quarter. It's like, it's all right. I'll buy it off you for a nickel. Let's see. Are we all caught up there? I think so. Working on some graphite abstracts and a whole pile of work in progress. Oh, Bithron, there's two different goats, and every rider I think there's two different versions of the rider, and then there's all these left-hand weapons and right-hand weapons, and yes, Landress will laugh because he knows that I discovered earlier tonight that's like, oh yeah, I had printed out tons of right-handed stuff, and I was gonna do all these other things, and I went, where's all the left hands? Well, yeah, those didn't get printed, so that's what. Well, I think it's probably done now. The left hands are probably done now. So okay, here we go. We're gonna give ourselves a nice little cloak. Is it not very much like what we did with Imriel here? So same idea. There's even more blue in this one here. All right, go on here. You're gonna move over there. The Riders on the Goats was a rare B-side. Yes, kind of a smoky sort of a song, right? With what was that? What, that crazy kind of organ sound in the background, right? And we're gonna push this down. Look at that. We're already starting to make some folds for ourselves. We gotta try and mesh these two guys together right here. Let's see. Some people started printing stuff not knowing what it was. They'll continue printing stuff forever just because. This is the printing goes ever on. Ah, there we go. So yeah, the printing goes ever on. Their campaign is it's coming to a close here. There's not too much time left. And that's why on Saturday, well, tomorrow, I'm hoping to have a whole bunch of these ready. Maybe some of those Crebanes as well, Landress. Maybe some of the Crebanes. We're also going to be painting up a couple of these guys tomorrow. This is from Duval Games. It's a couple of the riders, the black riders there. Uh-huh. There we go. And we're just trying to get a kind of a double fold work in there. Kind of like it's rippling in the wind. Guess what else that does? It strengthens this. What strengthens all the reason that's not going to fold back down is because of that fold, ironically enough. Where's my, here it is. Let's see. Yep, we're going to take this, push this up, and remember, we're going to, if we want to put some finer details into here, we can mix in some of the yellow, make our green stuff a little bit more on the softer side. Just like we did, I think our Army of the Dead was another really good example of that. It's been a while actually since I sculpted cloaks. I was thinking of this, when's the last time? I think it was on Boromir, maybe. Yeah, that might have been the last time we had a chance to sculpt some cloaks on Boromir over here. Yeah. But we got a couple of cloaks that we want to do here. Actually, I can zoom in a bit more now because we're not doing the eagles or the trees. Now, Avocado Kids looks like he is in lurk mode. Avocado Kids, go into lurk mode. Let's see. Now, this is the thing that's interesting about the green stuff as opposed to, say, the Apoxie Sculpt. Because meshing two things together, you can't just take water like the Apoxie Sculpt and just basically have it almost erode onto the surface. It just didn't quite work that way. see. Oh, thanks, Patron. I don't. Do you remember watching the? Here we go. Speaking of cloaks and folds, so this was the first sculpting stream that we ever did, and you see all those nifty folds there. You see their helmets there with the horse tails and such. So all of these cloaks, we sculpted all of these, on the flag too. So, and we added some extra stuff here just to make them look a little bit more Royal Guard-ish, right? So, yeah, if you never saw that stream, you might want to go back and check that one out, because boy, did we really had some fun making all those folds like here. So we're getting another set of folds out of this. Ah, it's the true Lurcado mold from avocado. Haha. And you can see how this is getting pulled and pushed further down, and we're also making more folds out of it here. We get that many more folds out of it, why not? Here we go, and taking this tool here, it's all a matter of, just like with the feathers, right? You push it in some areas, pull it into another area. Now we're going to flatten this one out over the top of that. And this is how we can get just a whole bunch of folds all into one small area here. No, Landress already is. Boy, Landress, you really able to, it takes me a while to get the stuff going in Shitterbox. Of course, oh, Landress, that USB drive I was telling you about, it was driving me nuts tonight. I was trying to put 6 new files on there that I created, and that drive is so wonky. Oh my goodness. And there's nothing you can do. You can't replace it because it's got the software on there. So yeah, there's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. That is why I have to get another one of those printers, the ones that let you do it via Wi-Fi or whatever, because those stupid USB drives, oh my goodness. Oh yeah, Bithron, there was a whole bunch of, I don't know if, did you see the Easterlings? And speaking of lings, we got Gamling and our Army of the Dead and more Easterlings and more Easterlings. So all of these, you can see we sculpted extra armor on there, all the cloaks, the horsey right here, cloak on that rider, resculpted a whole bunch of this kind of stuff here. And here's another one over here's our Easterling war priest. All of this stuff was sculpted here. All of all this stuff was added right here. Lots and lots of robes, and of course Gamling. We gave him a new head, we gave him a new robe, and gave him a flag. So all of these, and of course our Knight of our Prince Imrahil of Dol Amroth, that one as well. And here is our Dragon Knight there. So extra armor on the horse, and look at all the fun folds in that cloak right there. Here, let me just move some stuff out of the way. So this was prep for my next big paint session.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gunja.
54 mil kind of hides some of the stuff right there. So Zarf the Mage, hello little hobbits. He's like, how's Elrond doing? He's like, he says stop bringing your weird friends into Rivendell all the time. It's like, what weird friends? That old guy, he's nothing but trouble. Every time he comes into Rivendell, it's nothing but problems for us. So again, a little bit of wavy right down there, right? Landrest, unfortunately, I tried that, and it did not work at all because the USB drive has software on it or some kind of drivers. And I've tried to copy those onto a different USB, but was not able to get those to be installed or something like that. And other folks, they've told me the same thing. So yeah, I thought, well, I'll just use another USB drive. But nope, unfortunately, it has all kinds of control software on it or whatever. And that does not work, sadly. Let me see. So what are you saying is we're Easterling weekend during Easter weekend? Well, Trash, I have no idea when Easter is this year. I am hoping, especially now with the good news that the state of Illinois has finally seen sense, unlike last year when it didn't quite see sense, at least not right away. I have a little bit more time in April, so I'm hoping to, well, I also kind of need to get either an iPad or a Surface. I would prefer to get the Surface, but I think the iPad is going to be better as far as filming goes. Because I'm not quite sure if my method for recording or the method I wanted to use is really going to work out as I hoped. Do you have the old metal one here? Because actually, this is my last, this is the only Golden Demon winning thing I have left. Everything else is either, well, sent to the buyers or sold off or whatever. So this is my last one here. I think this is from either 2010 or 2011, but this wasn't real practical for playing games because heavy metal and all that kind of stuff. And I happen to have a few extra Forge World bits, and I've got these wonderful Fireforge horsies right here, so we just sculpted some extra stuff on there. So all of these streams are all saved as highlights as usual. Yeah, Landris, I was so bummed that I couldn't just transfer that. So I really thought I'd be able to transfer that software, but it just unfortunately it wouldn't let me do that. Now, if there's a solution for that, that would be great. Oh, thanks, Bitron. Yeah, well, I'm really hoping to get the Easterlings and Rohan together, at least some test games. It's not even, I might not even film them. I might just literally play a game just to get used to playing, because the last time I had a chance to play was, well, a long time ago, for obvious reasons. Ah, look what just happened there. You thought that we're just going to be left flat right on that tail there. Not so fast. Not so fast. Because we can still move this stuff around here and have some fun with it. Now, by just kind of sticking this over here, again, it's all about giving support to this part of the cloak here. And then while that sense, why don't we get another one going here? But we're going to Valendar the Red. Valendar the Red here since the beginning. Yes, it goes to 11. There we go. Yeah, Valendar, I've been trying to figure out exactly when the stream anniversary would be, but I just don't know. Because obviously, you know, the time you get you start your first stream to affiliate is not always, I don't even remember. I don't remember how many weeks I might have streamed before I actually got to affiliate. So, and you can't sub until you're an affiliate, right? So, yeah, this could be the stream anniversary tonight. Let's see. Trash are doing doing Golden Eyeball. There you go. There you go. Oh, actually, you know what? The Great Beast of Golgoroth. There's actually a guy who does stream some Lord of the Rings game. He's streaming them solo. He had 2 Beasts of Golgoroth and a Easterling Chieftain. That's all he had on the board. Now, of course, it was only like a 400-point game or something like that. But that was pretty funny. That's all he had on the board. And that the beasts trampled a whole bunch of rangers. They literally trampled everything. It was pretty funny to see, actually. They were just stomping all over stuff. So Valendar, how you doing today? So Valendar, oh Valendar, what are the current things that you're working on, and did you get to do anything interesting during Virtual Reaper Expo? I know we asked you then. Here, I think I'm actually I need to grab some more of the blue because we might need some more of this here. Because again, we're gonna make ourselves another cloak. You can see how long this takes, right? I mean, that's just really difficult. That is so difficult and tough, right? No, maybe that might just be enough. I'm gonna add just a smidge more yellow in here. But you notice that no amount of water in here changes the. I mean, it's still green stuff. Unlike the Apoxie Sculpt, where the water that's gonna really change it out there. Let's see. Some really abstract concept art for the latest commission, and to make it as close as you can. Well, hopefully they are. Hopefully they enjoy what you got going. Actually, if you got any work in progresses or something like that, feel free to chuck that in ye old chat right there. As always. All right, we're gonna just move you over there for safekeeping. This is another thing I wanted to see. I do enjoy Epoxy Sculpt as a gap filler. There was actually just some kind of like some shattering over here that happened. The Diwali games, they're a little bit rough working with some of those, so we're gonna also do some repairing on this thing with our green stuff as well. But first, we're gonna get our armored horsey here with a little bit of a cloak on him. Spread this out. And if I do this, you can see the fingerprints just kind of go away. You can see some fingerprints there. Fingerprints gone. But again, unlike the Epoxy Sculpt, when I do the water out there, the green stuff is not sort of disintegrating. So we'll get rid of our fingerprints again. We're going to stretch this out a bit. Look. Ah, that is so funny. So to me, I really like the two as individual unique mediums. I know some folks combine them together and all that kind of stuff. That's fine. That's fine. For me, I sort of like them in their own individual capacity. All right, if he's gonna do that, I'm gonna say we want the robe to fold over like this. And like so. So hope, and now the other thing is too, I can actually get at this stuff. Yeah, so that's another concern right there. Oops, that's the wrong one. Where's our? I think this is the one we're wanting. Yep, one of these shapers right here. I had to 75% done, and the front of the chest is done. So folks, be sure to check out what Valendar the Red's got going there, and also be sure to follow Valendar the Red. So Valendar, what are your normal streaming times, or does it just kind of happen when it happens? You're like, okay, I've got some time now, and then you just stream then, or you still trying to do the semi-regular stream in there? Okay, back to trying to mesh that with the top, with the hood right there. And we'll push this down. And then we're going to try and get a couple extra folds in here. See what we just did right there? We got one over here, but now there's two over here. Push this down even further here. And then once we've got that kind of underway, now we can take our heavy duty tool and really start to press into this here. So see how we got that fold going underneath there? Also, I might need a little more blue tack on here just to make sure he doesn't wander around too much. I was hoping to use a little less because I don't want to be shattering this thing trying to pull the blue tack off. Also don't want to lose too much green stuff into the detail that's here. So again, nice little, here, let's push this back, have that fold over the top here. So this has support in many areas here. You're streaming the RPG on Friday. The sculpting streams are getting very irregular. Well, Valendar, that makes a whole bunch of sense. Yes, I've tried to explain that to folks sometimes that there's stuff I can't stream because, well, like you say, I could stream it, but then I'd have to kill you. So there's that. I'd have to kill all of you if I streamed it. And then there's other times where it's totally the opposite. So folks, be sure to check out what Valendar the Red just posted there. So Valendar, you haven't got any word on when your Zeltaris and his mini adventures or whatever, or his day of the week things, when those might be coming back, or is that still a mystery yet? As we push this even further up here. As we do that, oh wait, look, we can institute another fold right in there. Yes, we can. Look at that. That's, remember old 9 folds? That's kind of how we did the same thing on old 9 folds there. I think, no clue yet. Yeah, now, Valendar, did you get to hear, oh gosh, what the heck is it called? Ember Exchange? Because I think that was, that the subject was GM Burnout or whatever. And I was sad that I had to miss that one because I thought since Zeltaris was on that one, we might find out a little something about, maybe he took on too much stuff or whatever. All right, again, working out more folds here. Dragging this all down. Like so. Potentially even. Oh, look at this. Maybe into another fold underneath here. This is how we can get a whole bunch of little folds here into a small confined space. Because to me, it seemed like he needed 10 days a week to be able to keep all of the adventures afloat there. There seemed to be a whole lot of stuff and a lot of people signing up. And I distinctly remember asking, maybe I asked Kathy or something like that. I said, how is he finding the time to do all of this stuff? Well, and I think then we got our answer. Now we're going to go back to our much softer tool right here. And I think I can see that. Look at that. See, much different there with this particular sculpting tool. A little bit softer. These shapers right here. There's 3 different hardnesses of these. This just happens to be the softest one. I might try to snag some of the other ones. I don't know if I'll grab the hardest ones because that would pretty much just replicate the metal tools that I have. Not sure if I need to do that. This particular shaper tool really does its best with the green stuff that has much more yellow in it. You're like, what the heck are you talking about, more yellow? That's why I try to keep some of these around. So you can see how there's more yellow in this. Look at how much more blue there is here. So the more yellow you've got, look at this. Remember we were talking about adding some more of our more yellowish green stuff to get more details there. That's what we did on this Army of the Dead. On what was this? Rogaine Lightning, I think was the name of this horsey right here. I do believe so. I still need to grab water though to make sure this baby doesn't stick to the green stuff. And look at what we're doing here. So we just push this down. So it started out, it was almost like a second hood, right? And now we're starting to push it down and actually make it into some very nifty folds instead of just a yet another hood. And here I'm trying to extend out this a little bit this way. Come back this way with it. Now I had another calf here. I think there's one more. He doesn't have a head, but he still needs a cloak. And this is what we're talking about. Remember, just starting to use these things for conversion or using them as sculpting dollies. I mean, really, as I look at this, is it really all that different than, say, I could have used this for Knight of Dol Amroth or something like that? So I think even the sculpting Thursdays are kind of changed forever because I've really got some raw materials now that I've not really had before. And I think that's going to be really amazing. Look what's happening here. So I push this up here just like we did there. I don't know if I can find one of these things easily. One of the cloaks. Is that a cloak here? No, not really. But, well, actually, here's another. So all the different heads on these guys really interesting. And that's definitely very much a Iron Hills shield. But there's also the pavases, right? They have those for both left and right hand. There's even a cloak with a pavase on the dang cloak. It's unbelievable. So for those vault or vault warden teams or whatever, I'll be able to make those. So I can pretty much make all of the dwarf stuff that I need now. I'm still going to be using those other figures, the dwarves from, what the heck is it called? Oathmark. Yes, the Oathmark dwarves. Well, Valandar, that's the ultimate sculpting dolly, right? A skeleton. Wouldn't that be fantastic? That would be just absolutely sensational. And I am most definitely going to be taking advantage of the 3D printing now. Well, just like Landrast is, even as we speak, Landrast is kindly printing up several sets of wings so that not only can we make some more eagles very quickly, but we can also have Pwinkles, who is going to be the successor to Prinkles on the show here. So we're going to have ourselves another kitty, but this time another murdered kitty, but this time it's going to be Pwinkles instead of Prinkles. Again, we're going to just fold these things, fold it back onto itself, give it some more support. We're actually going to pull that thing out into more of a straight edge there. This one too. Little bit of a straight edge there and pull that up. That's what the soft tool is really good for. Bithron, I was not expecting that. Not expecting the Oathmark figures, and and of course, the Ghost Archipelago stuff, the Frostgrave, also from, oh gosh, Fireforged, also from Fire. So we've got 2 boxes of these, and of course we had also from the same folks there at Fireforged. These are way better than the GW Candish Riders on so many levels. What is it? For $30, I got 12 of these instead of $35 for 2 nasty ancient metal ones. Just those 2 poses here it was, I think the rider itself comes in 9 pieces because different helmets, different hands, there's banners, weapons, you name it. I could have done anything I wanted with him, which is just fantastic. And the price, as we said, is just unbelievable. It's like the old GW kits, right? Oh, I also have those, was it the human troops or something like that? And at first I was going to use those for Arnor. I think I might, or I might use those for, well, I might use them for Dale because I don't think I'm going to be getting the GW Dale, Warriors of Dale, because I don't know if they're plastic. You never really see those. It's not too easy to get your hands on those Warriors of Dale. Now look at this. Look at this. Check this out. This is actually going up over the top. So this fold, instead of just piling the folds on top of each other, well, he does have a shoulder right here. This fold is actually sinking down inside of this. And again, that's where this shaper comes in pretty darn handy. Also, too, having a little more green in here. Remember, it's not quite as blue as the other one was. I mean, it may not really show up on camera, but this has definitely got a little more yellow in it, so it's a little softer. Old Bithrin gets them from North Star. Who was I getting them from? It's an American outfit. Boy. Sorry, I'm spacing on it. I think I have their card stuff right over here. Let me see if I can grab this without destroying everything here. GC Mini, that's it. So GC Mini here in the US. That's where I've been getting mine from. Now, North Star is going to have way more selection because that's kind of the source right there. And they actually have some resin figures. There's actually some Spanish figs that I was thinking about using for Arnor. Look at this, another fold working its way in here. So see, we've got irregular things moving all this way and that. It started out, remember, as just a sheet. It was literally just a green stuff sheet, and all of a sudden, well, it's become way more than just a green stuff sheet. And look at this, I can push this out here. Let's see, I've been trying to get them. Think I'll check my closest game store for them. Yeah, around here, I'd never heard of them before, ever, until I'm not even sure how I found the. Oh, I was looking for Bretonians. That's it. I found those Templar, those Knights Templar, historical, right? And next thing I knew, I was using them for Lord of the Rings, and I thought, well, okay, I wonder if they have anything else that could maybe work. And then I went, oh my gosh, I saw the Candish stuff, the Mongolian cavalry, which I've got another box of here too. And then, oh, and these are for, I think they're here. So definitely, yeah, from North Star. I just see the name right there, North Star military figure. But this is going to be my Farharad right here because they have blowpipes. They have all the stuff that I need. So that's going to be fantastic as well. But yeah, I'm looking right over there. It says North Star military figures from Nottingham. I guess everything that makes vintage. I guess that's all they make in Nottingham is miniatures. That is their one industry is miniatures. Also, I'm taking this shaper tool here and just pushing this way, and then pushing that way a little bit. So we got lots of nice little pushing and pulling going on here. Yeah, what's funny is that the Templar Knights, we used them for Imrahil, for Rider of the Dead, and for Boromir. So it's the same, literally the same exact horse pose. But here we combined some Tomb King bits with it, and obviously tore up the cloak and everything. We put Boromir on here, and then we put Imrahil on here. The same, literally the same exact horse pose, even. And we got three very different looking sculpts out of this. I mean, it's with the GW stuff. Yeah, okay. Let's say money didn't matter. Money means nothing whatsoever. I looked. I was just on the GW site. A third, at least 30% of all of the Lord of the Rings stuff at any one time or another is out of stock. At least out of stock online. And as we know, availability is the best ability. So I've kind of got no choice but to go in that other direction because they don't have the stuff. And the Royal Guard, right? That was just taking the old maybe about $5 a piece Riders of Rohan and doing exactly what we're doing right here. Doing exactly the same thing because that it didn't just save money. They might have two different. I think there's two different poses. That's it for mounted Royal Guard. And here, look at this. Plus, they're all plastic, right? They're not going to be falling over. They're not going to fall apart, right? Because they're either plastic glued together or green stuffed. So those things ain't breaking, unlike the metal figures. Yes, out of stock or out of production. Out of production. Now the thing is, what was it? Made to order. So I almost was thinking about the Ammon Hen set until I looked and it said, please allow 180 business days for delivery. And I went, well, I could pretty much sculpt them all in that amount of time. Because pretty much you have to figure, okay, that first session on the Royal Guard, that was not 180 days ago. And I have sculpted a whole ton of Lord of the Rings stuff since then. As in like great beasts and eagles. And I know next Thursday we were thinking of doing tree men, but I think next Thursday might have to also be a basing stream. Let's see if I can cut one more fold in there. It looks like I can. So just like the same thing I did on the feathers, right? Where I kind of push the tool underneath there and lift up that feather. It's the same thing we did on our beefy chiefy over here, right? Where we took these things and we literally pulled them out this way. They're all very flat. That was just one flat piece of epoxy. It was just like this when it started out. And then we pressed this and then started to literally pull these pieces out. And as Armored Wolf mentions right there, yes, the Patreon page, we just finished the newest video that's actually been uploaded. I'm going to be posting it to the Patreon page tomorrow. It's a little exercise, not your usual exercise in object source lighting, because this is the first one, whether it's acrylics or oils, where I did not use any fluorescent paints. And on the cool side, we have cobalt blue, which I've never used before as far as oil paints. So it's always been something like Prussian blue or phthalo blue for the glow. Where's our Schmandorf? Over here. So yeah, that was more done with Prussian and phthalo blue. But there were no fluorescent paints used there because, well, they can be difficult for some folks to get. And I thought, well, let's just show them how you can do all the same object source lighting stuff without having the fluorescence. So what we did, they were creating more and more folds here, but now it looks like the wind has actually pulled this over his shoulder here. Yeah, obviously it has what? It has lurts, right? Because usually on eBay, right, you're seeing lurts for $100 by himself. I think it was $77 or something like that for the entire set. Actually, the other figure that I wanted most from it, well, let's see, there was Lurtz, Pincushion Boromir, but it's the one that the Glittering Caves Eowyn. That's the one I was really wanting, actually, even more than the Lurtz, even more than Pincushion Boromir. Really wanted to have that That glittering caves Aowen sculpt there. See, look at here. We're starting to add a fold underneath here now. Oh yeah, we haven't forgotten that. Not forgotten that area. See, it also pushes the cloak out a little bit more here. Now, of course, maybe it doesn't take 180 days. Maybe it doesn't even take 100 days. But still, I saw that and I thought, nope, nope, I can just sculpt those myself if need be. But it looks like I'm not going to have to because, well, you've got things like the Printing Goes Ever On and some of these other folks like Diwali, and I'm sure there's a couple of others. Now, those two, Printing Goes Ever On and Diwali, that's kind of their thing. They also do terrain. I know our imprintable terrain, he did the Fountain Courtyard. And he's got some fantastic elven terrain, that's for sure. He's got some amazing stuff. Ah, there we go. Look at that. So now we have really augmented that cloak right there. Once again, we'll push this up here. So say we've already created a fold in there. We didn't do anything. All we did was push up this side on either end, or around either side of this. Now we got a fold, and see how it compresses this now. So we have kind of a, look at this cloth looks like it's just kind of laying in here. While this, you got this sort of tension going on here where that cloth is being pushed, and more of a fold, right? That much more of a fold there. So as soon as I saw these guys here, I did not even bother printing out cloaks because I mean it's not hard whatsoever, right? I'm gonna go back to this guy now because our green stuff is at a chance to set a little bit more here. And we're going to do some of the same kind of stuff that we did on our other one here. I'm going to try and create some secondary folds, exactly like we did on the other one. Like this. And that needs to be pushed down. We also need to make some more folds into this. So we got this tool, I'm going to cut it right in here. Extend this down. And we're just going to literally take our tool and we're just going to yank this thing right down here. Why do we wait so long? Because I could tell as I was pushing down on that earlier, it was taking way too much stress on this. It was taking this whole thing, pushing it down, didn't want to do that. That was not something I wanted to have happen. And here, another thing is going to happen. Oh, look, we just cut another fold into that. Look at this. You wonder how we did old 9 folds, the Rohan guy? This is how we got 9 folds in there. It was like an amoeba, it just kept dividing itself. Folds are like amoebas. They just divide and expand. I'm not sure if that needs to go in the Book of Wapple. Actually, maybe it does. Maybe we haven't added a new sculpting Book of Wapple thing. So as the folds are like amoebas, they just kind of divide themselves and replicate. Okay, doing our more of a fold here. We're going to push that even further here. From below, take it from below, push that up here. Then just create a fold on this side. It's really going to accentuate what we did over here. Life is like a fold of amoebas. It will find a way, and it always does. What was that? Nature is undefeated, or Mother Nature is always undefeated. Using a soft tool over here. But I don't just want to make like 3 layers of the same fold, right? You got one over here. Ah, where was Gondor? Where was Gondor when the left fold fell? Oh, yeah, I just did that. I just did that. You don't get that kind of wordsmithing just anywhere, right? Just like, where's our one precision tool that we have here? Is this the one? Yeah, is this the one that's all beat up and nasty here? Let me see if I've got this precision tool ready to show off right here. I think this is it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, you don't, I mean, this right here, this kind of gear, you don't see this next level gear on just any painting stream. No siree. You do not. It's gonna be stuff. There we go. Now, Bithran, was there any particular figure in the Ammonhen set that maybe, you know, was it something like alerts maybe? Or was there any particular figure in there that just like, boy, I kind of wish I had that one? I don't think I've ever had the alerts figure to paint. There's been other Lord of the Rings figures that I've had. Actually, well, I did sculpt an Eowyn figure way back in the day, maybe 2003 or 2004. I did sculpt one. And of course, well, speaking of sculpting, we did do this a slightly bigger scale. Oh gosh, that's probably 1/6 scale there, maybe. No, yeah, it's because it's bigger than 1/8. So that's about 1/6 scale, maybe. Ah, where was Gondor when the left fold fell? It's just too easy. That's some low-hanging fruit right there. So, okay, how many? Yeah, we got four folds going on here. And now it looks very much like it's actually part of his cloak here instead of just kind of tacked on. Because it was sort of, well, the ones that are printed on the riders, they look a little bit more like they're just kind of tacked on, whereas the infantry doesn't really have that look to it. But now look at, we're taking this, pulling it down even further here. From below here to try and create some folds. See that? See how we're pushing this back out again? But it's not quite as extreme as, say, the Apoxie Sculpt here, where we really, it's all about the timing, right? It's not so much about timing here. Spec a Spud. Spec a Spud, nice to see you again. How the heck have you been doing? How are you doing? Oh, let's see. I was a big fan of getting the scenario pieces as a figure. I could use as an R1 or alerts. Yeah. So Spec a Spud, nice to see it. Well, nice to see it. I know sometimes I've seen you maybe in Drax's or something like that. Or now, well, Steela's still, she's still going. So, and she's going till, let's see, she's been going now 6 hours maybe. I'm gonna say she started at 6:30. I don't know. It was probably maybe 7, but if it was 6:30, yeah, that's almost. She's almost 7 hours in. Actually, I don't know if someone can check out her stream there and just see what her timer is at, and if she's still alive. Oh, wasn't okay. Oh, wait, man, there's a little bit under here. We'll just take that, bring it over this way. There we are. Yeah, Mithran, that's not a case of one can never have too many Frodos. No, there's an awful lot of Hobbit sets out there. I guess I can understand why, but there's a lot of Hobbit sets out there. So here we go. We got multiple folds working their way in here. I mean, even I have multiple Hobbitses, so... Ah, there we go. Look at that. See, that was just pretty much a big old mound right there. Now it's been divvied up into some smaller bitses here. And I'm going to push this way. I'm going to flatten that one out even more. So remember what that looked like when we first started this? Sure as heck didn't look like this. Look at, we're moving this even further here. So everything's getting kind of compressed here, a little bit stretched out over there. And anyways, yeah, well, there's a part of me that is a little bit concerned over the reaction of some of the Lord of the Rings, well, the more tournament type crowd, because they are not going to like the list that I'm going to be using in these games whatsoever. Because we're not using tournament stuff. That's not the point of it, for one thing. Because tournament lists are basically the same 2 or 3 armies, no matter who's using them, and they all use them in the same way. And I really don't need to see that over and over again in battle reports. I surely don't need to play that myself in battle reports. Which is another reason why I was so happy to find that whole War of the Ring game. As we look at that, lifting this up here. Because all of a sudden, well, maybe Theoden is dead. Maybe he died early on in the game or the campaign. And maybe because then they can only show up in one place. They can't be in multiple places. When Saruman dies, he's just gone. I think they just got a new guy from the FBI to spy on you. I just heard, oh my god, my eyes, my eyes. Somebody must be doing a little bit of naked singing in the shower or something like that. And of course, by shower, I mean like in a public fountain somewhere. Looks like M. Tellys has returned. M. Tellys has done a MacArthur. Revlis. Hey, Revlis. Nice to see you back. Nice to see you. Hopefully all is well with you. Yeah, that was there was kind of an unexpected little bit of a reprieve here that happened sort of yesterday and today. So I think we might just have a little extra time maybe to get some of this, the actual gameplay of Lord of the Rings go. Look at this guy. That is really fun. I don't think I really got a chance to do that with our other figures. Let's see. Revlis is cutting styrene sheet. Now, Revlis, are you using like a hot wire type of a thing, or are you going old school with the ye old X-Acto knife? That's the other thing I got to get working is the Proxxon foam cutter there. Oh, jeez, if I didn't sleep for 20 years and you did give me a 70-hour day, 10-day week, I would still only get a third of the stuff done. There is so much stuff to do. Here, let's get this more meshed together with the hood right here if we can. So all of this is kind of offering there's sneaky structural support in here. like this that we're doing here to essentially create a fold underneath there. All that's about, when you want to support something, you bend it, right? Think of all these folds as actually like supports in a 3D print. That's what we're doing. It's the same idea. Literally, it's like we're putting supports into a 3D print here. Oh, styrene sheet. Never mind. Never mind, Revless. Sorry about that. Now I see see what you're talking about there. I actually finally got to use some of my polystyrene tubing for on the Mandalorians. Yes, on the Mandalorians. Speaking of actually Revless, I'm gonna be needing some right here. I have to actually get out some of my uh, polystyrene sheets here to create these shields. We got Amastig back in the house. Let's see. Oh, Amastig. There's another guy. I think I've watched some of his. I might have watched his. Now, did he invite the guy that made? Oh gosh, what was it called? The sand. What summer? Because someone makes a whole bunch of MDF guides and tools for the Proxon, and I always forget the name. I feel stupid because I've said it 1,000 times here, but I keep forgetting it. But it's a whole bunch of MDF guides and stuff. So I'm a stick. How have you been doing? I mean, who knows? Well, I don't. If I can get the shields printed on these guys, maybe we can paint these up tomorrow too. It's just I've got to actually Landrast are like the shields. Did he divide up the elves into left and right the same way he did the dwarves? Because I cannot find the shields other than like the infantry guy with the shield. I can't find the darn shields anywhere for these guys here. So it's kind of driving me a little bit nuts. Just a smidge. All right, now I'm going to put that one off to the side. We're going to come back here and see what we can do here. Also, we'll do some maintenance here on the cloak. You can see I got the water going here. Now, the one consequence of folding this over here is it makes it really tough to do any kind of interesting freehand in there. But, whatever. We're going to push this over even a bit more here. Now, Landra, it's the elf shields right here. Yeah, and I'm just wondering because with the dwarves, remember, it was all kind of sneaky and cheeky that I ended up printing out all the left-hand stuff, or no, all the right-hand stuff. Because I printed out tons of stuff. I'm like, why do I have 0 left hands? Well, then I went to the left side, whatever, the left list. That's where I saw the other goat riders and the other goats, and that's where I started seeing all these left hand, left whatevers. That's what, I'm sure it's finished now, but that's what's waiting for me to go down there and take it out of the vat, is literally an entire build plate of left hands. Left hands with shield, left hands with different weapons. Let's see, Shayza Gameway. Why is it when I Google Miniature Paint Award winners, this is the first name that pops up? Well, geez, Shayza, what was it? Was it Golden Demons? Was it Crystal Brushes? Or was it Army Painting or something like that? Or like a tournament thing? Now you got me curious. Let's see. Oh, you finally got the 3D printer dialed in. Well, I'm a Stig. Where's where is that here? There it is. So this was the first time I ever did. I hollowed this thing out myself, and of course I was relieved to know that it is supposed to have the supports on the inside. So I'll probably be doing this thing is still heavy. Now I did mine thicker. I think that's like 3 millimeters or something like that. Like it's practically a quarter of an inch thick. But I don't know. I think it was worth it. Ah, with the crystal brushes. As we welcome Crotchety the clown. How you doing? Let's see. So Landrest. Okay, if this is the build plate here, I think I stacked up a row of just left hands and a fist. I think I did 8 of them, like literally along here. And then I did a whole bunch of, I think, swords and other things. I got maybe 5 here. There must be about 20 or 30 hands. Some holding things, some not. I went a little bit nuts with the hands. So I might actually now have too many left hands. But hey, sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. Yeah, I just went there. I went there again. I cannot be stopped. Alright, with this fold right here, I want to see if I can't push that down even more. Yeah, I'll push down more on this side though. And we're going to extend this even more this way. Look at this. We're just like literally taking some green stuff and yanking it. It's like a Stretch Armstrong here. Let's see. So Crotchety the Clown, I hope that you're doing good. And, well, it's a happy Friday now because it's Friday here. Actually, geez, it's 1:49. When the heck did it get to be 1:49? Oh, let's see. You're making an anime sword. Well, Revless, I mean, it's gonna be unique, right? It's gonna be yours. So to me, that's well, saving money is always winning, but saving money plus getting it to be your own thing, your own original like that, that's putting winning on top of winning. And just like extra things on top of ice cream, you pretty much can't put too much on top of it. So, and yes, I am the person who's known to put ice cream on top of ice cream with whipped cream on top of that, well, plus magic shell, like 2 types of magic shell on the same thing. Because magic shell, I mean, come on, magic shell. Need I say more? You know what? I'm going to even go crazier here. We're going to push this fold out further here. And this one will get compressed and kind of disappear here underneath this fold. Yeah, look at this. So this folds like it's coming out over this part of the cloak here. Your third take on building that sword. Well, I mean, Revless. Wow, we came up with something and I can't remember what the heck it was. I think it was supposed to end up in the Book of Wapo. That failure is just delayed success. Oh, I like that one. I like that one. Failure is just delayed success. Because pretty much you screw up enough on something or you have enough things go maybe not according to plan. Guess what? If you don't mind links, I can drop a few pics. Oh no, I'm a mistake. Yeah, fine. Go ahead and throw some out there. Landrest, yes, I think. Of course, it's not as much fun to have ice cream when it's not 10 degrees outside, but I think we could still use some ice cream tomorrow. Well, I need to stock up on other essentials tomorrow because we pretty much have nothing for the entire weekend of streams. Even this is just kind of borrowed from Kathy's stash right here. I think we're all caught up there. So crotchety, yeah. This is, like I said, the first time I ever tried hollowing something out here, and there was no problem with the drainage or anything like that. I've been printing all kinds of figures from the Printing Goes Ever On from Duvale here. Now, of course, Landress was kind enough to, yeah, because I'm not yet printing these kind of things. So Landress was kind enough to print out this, and we painted this on Monday, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, and look, I did throw some paint on the underside of the horse earlier today, and we stuck him on there, but we're gonna be sculpting some more additional, I think, things on there to support him. Well, a Landress, isn't that, well, I guess I thought that was true about spirits of a spirit type nature that you can't buy them, you can only rent them. I thought that wasn't that the case, right? You can't buy them, you can only rent them. Yep, Crotchety the Clown, Landrest, I mean, super generously printed out the set of three. So we will certainly be printing or be painting the other two. Now, the one with the banner, that's probably going to be a tutorial video because I can just sort of paint part of it, let that dry, paint the banner separately. That would be a difficult thing to do on stream. Oh, look at this. Look at that fold. Remember how simple this was? Remember how simple that all was not long ago? Same thing with this guy. Just like our Rohan stuff. I'm telling you. Oh, and I also have, now I have an infinite supply of horses. You thought this was the cavalry channel before? I now have an infinite supply of horses with no riders. Yeah, baby. Oh, let's see. You're going to print out some 28 mil and 56 mil scale halfling and bases. Actually, oh, you know what? There was, I think in the Diwali, yes, in the Diwali release, oh, because of the Black Riders. Yes, because of these guys, they actually had a couple of the hobbitses on horseback too, I think. Again, I might be printing those up. Oh, I did hear it was most of the time it's kind of unlistenable for me, these things, but it was a review of the Arnor army list. And I guess one of the things, I didn't realize it because I thought I just read through it, they can actually have halfling archers because, and this is for Armored Wolf here. I believe he said that the hobbits sent 500 archers to help defend the city of Fornost and the big Arnor or big Angmar invasion. So I don't know. You would know more about that than I do, obviously. So we'll consult Armored Wolf and his expertise. Oh, look at this. More folds here. 28 mil on the can, and keeping 56 next to our character sheets. Yeah, see, Valendar, to me, I just love having miniatures for RPGs. I know it's not essential at all in any way, shape, or form, but there's just I don't know. It's easier for me to kind of identify with a character when I actually have a character. And it's kind of funny that you had mentioned halflings because the character that I was, in Zeltaris's thing there, I had asked him if I could play a halfling master sommelier, and his name was going to be was it Hercule? Or no, it's going to be his name was going to be Deminth, something something Deminth, and he was going to be a master sommelier, but he was going to basically be dressed just like Louis the 14th there, right? With the stockings and the short pants and everything else, and the powdered wig, a huge powdered wig. And I was trying to find a miniature that I could maybe change, but now that I can just print stuff, I might be able to print out basically my own sculpting dolly for that. This is basically a sculpting dolly as far as I'm concerned. So they can. Okay. That's good to know, Bithron. I've seen a few videos of the same anime sword. In that vid, they use clear orange. Okay, I like for the blade. The rest are carving a popsicle stick. So thanks for the info there, Bithron. Yeah, I heard that, and because the guy he said, well, there's only 6 entries, and obviously, Malwit the Seer, and the Captain, no Cav, obviously, and then you probably have a Captain of Arnor, right? There was not a lot, and then of course, Arvidui, right? You have him. So here, I'm gonna open this up. I'm gonna open this up so I can actually get to some freehand in here. And I'm also going to lift this up here because it's been on here a while. So look at that. Look at that really fun kind of undulation that happens here. Army is the Lord of the Ring beside me. You can have Hobbit archers and less. Well, that's actually really good, Bithron, because I think that's going to make an interesting kind of story. Now, he said, of course, that they were the only reason you should take them is just because I guess they provide a courage boost. That was the only reason he was taking them. I would prefer that just because, well, I think it could be very, very interesting to have just a bunch of Hobbit archers sitting in a building. And we've got our Ruins of Arnor, right? So here, let's get down to our. Oh no, actually, this would be more interesting. Yeah, here, let's look at this terrain here, if I can find it for you. Can you imagine just a whole bunch of Hobbit archers sitting around in this? Especially that tower there. Boom! Look at that. If they're in that tower and there's an objective sitting there, they're just going to be raining their little tiny arrows down there. Yeah, that could be very fun. Let's see. Valandar is trying to decide which figure to paint. Now, Valandar, do you like painting the bigger stuff? The larger scale? For me, I like painting the larger scale stuff, especially with the oils, because you can do lots of fun little things that maybe you can't on the smaller scale stuff. So again, we're taking this cloak right here, and it's pulled over the top, but under this. So you can see a lot of over and under here in our folds. The one thing that I was a little bit disappointed to see is that the Crebanes are only in the Isengard Legendary Legion. It's not a huge disappointment because if I want to do all the Dunlending special characters, it has to be through Legendary Legion anyways, which I guess that's starting to get to be a little bit of a Legendary Legion is kind of like the Eagles of the army building thing for Lord of the Rings is just, well, if you need to get in some characters or some new miniatures, you just create a Legendary Legion. And it violates all the normal rules of all the Lord of the Rings stuff normally. See what I'm doing here? Taking this, pushing it this way over here. Let's see, mount on paint handles, craft paint bottles, ready for paint. Well, actually, look at this. Dead Reaper paint jars. And I'm telling you, it wasn't exactly 50 years ago that they came like this. I swear, 10 years ago, you could still buy these things. I could be wrong. Let's see. One of them is the new Bones, USA Leprechaun. Boy, yeah, Valandar, I just have none of that new Bone stuff at all. That's kind of the grayish stuff, right? I mean, maybe I have those stone trolls, but that was from a couple of years ago. Look at this. That is looking very much like it's actually wrapped around him here. Bithron, so you don't have War in Rohan, because that's where all of the legendary legions are. Just like a lot of the dead men have done Herald. I think actually Herald and the Heralds here. I'm pretty sure this is only in the legendary legion list. So that's War in Gondor, I think, is where these guys come from. Which is weird that they would do a set of figures for Army of the Dead, the first new ones in forever, and yet they're only for a Legendary Legion. I had a Darius figure. They put rough cloth texture on the inside of the cloak. Yeah, I think this might have been my first experience with it. It was a couple of these Reaper guys here. So our Mike Disney figure, I think this was one of them because it definitely is. It's almost. It's like the rustic of the Bones world. It's like part resin, part whatever. Ah, there's what Revlis wants to make. Well, Revlis, I do hope that you have success there. We're going to grab our softer sculpting tool here. And this is the one of the shapers here. There. Yeah, that's what I mean, Valendar. That was from 2 years ago. Actually, no. Actually, sorry. This is actually, I think at the time they were calling it Gen 3 or Gen 4. So this is actually beyond just the Bones Black here. They sent me some for, oh, actually it was last year. Never mind, it was last year. So it definitely was the newer stuff. And definitely it was, they said it was past, it was beyond Bones Black. It just, I'm kind of far removed from Reaper and what they're doing, unfortunately. So when they tell me things, it's only kind of at the very last second, like right before Virtual ReaperCon or Virtual Reaper Expo, which I found out about Virtual Reaper Expo here on the stream. When someone asks, what are you doing for RVE? And I'm like, what the heck is an RVE? Sounds like something you use for camping. But if Revless only had a laser cutter. Oh, look at that. We're going to push this fold this away now and this one down here again using our little shaper tool here. If we need a little more undercut here, watch this. Watch that. Boom. Got more, a little more space down there, but look at all those nice rich folds here. And it started out as just basically a sheet of grain stuff. And look at all of these, all the shapes that we've gotten in here. Let's see. I don't know what the cry cut controversy. You'll have to fill me in, Valendar. You'll have to let me know. Back to our nice, soft. I didn't expect to be using this much. I thought it would have to be more on the. Wow, almost knocked that thing over. This is where I'm typically using that tool is on the really soft. And see here, all of this again, where we need that the skin here, all this fine texture stuff. That is why it's that yellowish. It's got more of the yellow in it. This thing here, I'm just going to try and pull this down a little bit more. Again, with my shaper tool, I just absolutely love. For the longest time, I thought I was never really going to find a purpose for these things. We have Altered Man entering the fray here. Altered Man, actually, gee whiz, that must have been a very short stream for you. Hopefully nothing went crazy during your stream there.
Hello,
So folks,
little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
be sure to give Altered Man Art a follow. And thank you so much, God Rule Yastro. Hello, little hobbits. No, don't bring your weird friends in here. What weird friends? I don't have weird friends. Oh, really? He doesn't have weird friends? Like, oh, wait, hey. That was that old dude, wasn't it? That was the guy with the ganja. Maybe he's got some. How many times do I have to tell you? No ganja. So thank you very much for that follow. That is appreciated. 1 second here. Circuit is a machine for pre-cutting foam and vinyl, and they just released a plan to make the machine a subscription service. Cosplayers went insane. And then Altered Man art. 2 hours, I finally finished the bestigores are all done. So Altered Man, that means you return to Middle Earth, right? It's back to Middle Earth because, well, you have all of Middle Earth there. You literally have everything in Middle Earth. Actually, these are my Rivendell elves. Welcome to my Mirkwood Riders here, right? That's what these guys are. Little Hobbit type action there. Stompy. Okay. So you would think what lurks in Moria, right? First thing that comes to mind is something like this. You know, dude, fire, lash, flame, shadow, that kind of stuff. You think he would be the scary thing. You'd have to worry about him. Yeah, I'd take a little. I would think you might want to worry about these guys instead. Oh, like the mimes of Moria. Yes, they are French, and yes, they are street mimes. Jetez-moi, that says toss me. And over there on the left, that says we love the mimes. Yes, it does. They wore top hats, they wore berets, they wore chef's hats. You see the baguette right there, even an oven mitt. Safety first. You've got yourself Charles de Gaulle. Look at his mustache. Look at his mustache. That is a very finely tuned mustache right there. We have Francois and Pierre. They really fancied themselves the stars of the team, right? The stars of the team. They weren't into the whole blocking and tackling and all that kind of stuff. They were really into like a fine Chablis, maybe a Pinot Noir, something like that. And of course, here we had Poirot right there on the left. We had our Bombardier. I actually did sculpt another Bombardier, like a star player Bombardier. Those things were all pretty much metal. They were all pretty much metal. Every conversion, and I had to do them fast. Oh, thanks, Altered Man Art. So yes, that was uh, my first Blood Bowl league at a game store instead of just among people that I'd known for years and years. And literally the week before the season, they said, "Well, our Goblin coach just quit. We can't redo the schedule because it was a set schedule." They said, "Could you maybe take and do a Blood Bowl Goblin team?" And that's when the Mimes of Moria were born. They actually did make the playoffs in both seasons. Just Us League of Revengers. They were all painted individually and like various superheroes. That's what I always loved about Blood Bowl. The game itself and endless triple skulls, no matter how many rerolls you have, that was less fun. But the stadiums, I've actually made several Blood Bowl stadiums. That was north of the points. Oh, that was worth the. Oh, thanks, Stompy. Thanks. I was hoping to have some more pictures up. I'll try to have some for tomorrow of a couple of the other things like that, like the Mechanicus army, all those other things. I'm going to try and have some of those up for tomorrow. Well, just like Grand, right? The big old battering ram. We definitely have to get some pictures up of him. I did manage to get some more pictures up of the lizard men. Oh, look at that, pushing that cloak up even further. It's creating all those extra folds just like old nine folds here. Right? And where was Gondor when the left fold fell? Where were they? They were probably at the dry cleaners. Now you printed a pitch. Holy smokes, Landrest. Well, that was FDM style. Oh, gee, were you actually able to break it down into small enough pieces to do it on the ender? Because I just saw a video And it talked about cutting files. Can you actually take like this? Could I actually do something where I cut this part off and print it separately? If I was going to make this thing bigger or something? Because if that's the case, that would be really neat. Yeah. So Landrest, yeah, I'm going to have to either constantly bug you on how to make that stupid FDM printer work, or just send you files to print or something like that, because I have a ton of terrain things to print. All right, Altered Man. Folks, be sure to give Altered Man a follow so that you can watch him paint all those luscious and lovely Lord of the Rings figures tomorrow. So thanks again, Altered Man Art, and you have a good one. Look at this. Look at this. Why are we doing that? Because A, it kind of adds to the whole flow of this. B, structural support. Extra folds when you bend stuff, just like steel, right? The reason why I-beams are kind of stronger, because you've got it's not just one flat sheet. Curing fans, STL intended for large format resin printer. Boy, Valendar, oof. When I say this is the golden age of miniatures, I ain't kidding, because that sounds incredible. That sounds absolutely fabulous. MTOs can vouch for the expertise of Landrest in the terrain printing. Well, Landrest, yeah. Oh, look at this, huh? See how that was kind of collapsed in there? I had to wait. And this is where the soft tool, if I was doing this with the other metal tool, you bet there's going to be a line, and you'll like literally see that like almost a hole in here. This is where these shapers come in really handy over here. Yeah, Landrest, I've got to print out, there's a whole bunch of the Moria terrain from, well, the Printing Goes Ever On, because as much as I would love to make that terrain myself,
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
just to make that much would be just too long with that kind of detail anyway. But thank you so much, Dark Initiative, for that follow. Hello, little hobbits. Don't bring those little dudes in here. I mean, they got those big old feet and they're sweaty, man. Those sweaty feet leave all kinds of nasty footprints all over Rivendell. It's like, oh, sorry. Thank you so much. Let's see. You played M-Toys on the Goblin Pitch, and you have a good night, Stompy. Hopefully we can see it tomorrow. We might even be painting these guys if I can find these stupid files here for these guys and get that printed. But I would definitely like to paint. Where's my writers here? These black writers from Deval. Oh, that's right. I gotta fix that thing. I gotta fix it real quick here. Let me grab some of my blue here. Let's see. My humans played M-Tilly's Goblins, and that must have been amazing. And oh, you know what I always wanted to have was a Jumbotron. And of course now with phones and everything else and so many different devices, you can literally have your own Jumbotron. Let's see, a gaming table into his basement. Yeah, Revless, it's not necessarily the easiest thing to figure out. Now, of course, as it turns out, the files that I was printing were notorious for being difficult to print, as in like super notorious. And also the conditions I was trying to print in were absolutely horrendous. It was like 85 degrees with super high humidity and everything else. Valendar, that is definitely the dream terrain table, right? That is dream terrain there. Yeah, Valendar the Red. That's something that people obviously they tried to develop themselves. I know I just had hanging numbers. Like I said, just to head on over to the blog, I've got I think at least 3 Blood Bowl stadiums on the blog, maybe 4 or 5, like the Tundra Dome for Juno Icebergs. Ah, thank you for sticking there. And of course, then we had the Royale Casino. Let's get you out of there. There. Let's get you to stick to this here. Not so much to me. I was kind of curious. I wasn't sure how the printing resin would react to things like green stuff. Alright, so that's just my support mechanism right there. We'll have to go back in later and do some of that. Right now, very quickly though, I just wanted to have some fun doing a little bit of some shelf fungus here. Let's see, made an ender. Holy smokes, an ender 6. I have an ender 3. Yeah, so Landrest, I don't know if you can help me figure out how to get that ender 3 working. Oh, look at this. See, that's look at how difficult that is, right? That's super difficult right there. Shelf fungus. Just saying. Just saying. Get that pulled out. I want to make sure that's actually touching here. Which is kind of funny because if I give him another one here and one here, that's going to look like he's got 2 eyes and he's going to look like a tree man right there. Which would be kind of hilarious. But he's not supposed to be a tree man. He is supposed to be a flying base. So we'll have to just leave this at some strategically placed shelf fungus here. Let's do our next one. Where's our piece? There it is. Ah, well, I'm glad that's what you got there, Landret, because that's what I have. That's all I got, and it's mostly all still just in the packaging. I mean, it's literally not set up whatsoever. So that we'll need some help setting that thing up. Well, actually, first I have to create an area for it, because the area that I thought could work for both printers, well, at least it works really well for the Elegoo. But yeah, we need to make a whole nother area for the Ender 3. You do actually have to get a little bit of floppiness here in the shelf fungus. But it's kind of handy just doing this with the green stuff. It's more likely to stick, at least right away, say, than your Apoxie Sculpt. And we sculpted the trees here in last week's stream, if you remember that. So there's just a couple of nice little shelf fungi there. Maybe we'll do a little bit more here. Potentially even grab a little more yellow. Yeah, Amish stick, that's something that I remember, unless you're using ABS, but don't use ABS. Um, I'll have to look. I've got a couple of spools, Landra. One of the reasons I didn't get to really print very much is because the spools, well, it was April, right? And I just couldn't get, it was March and April. I couldn't get spools, sorry, anywhere. Every time it said, oh, they're going to be in stock this day, it would say, well, now they're going to be in stock 2 weeks from now. And then it would be 2 weeks later and say, well, they're going to be in stock 3 weeks from now. I'd be like, what the heck? Let's see. But there's well, also there's stuff from our imprintable terrain that I have to be able to print it myself. He cannot print it for me because, well, shipping that stuff would be an absolute nightmare from Canada. So that's stuff. If I want all that fantastic elven terrain, well, I'm just gonna have to print that stuff up myself. And you see how we're kind of offsetting some of these here? Yeah, they're also getting smaller. But just offsetting those, and we're going to make a couple of smaller ones right here. Yeah, Landrest, I'll take you a picture of the spools that I have. It's not like it's going to happen anytime soon, because like I said, there's nowhere for that printer to go right now. And that is, here, let's get that one stuck back on there again. And I'm going to try and take some of this out, and I might just have to then leave that one alone for just a little bit. Let's take some of that green stuff away there, and let's go back to some water on our fingers, which we're using the Mark I sculpting tool now. I'm going to push some of these shelves down a little bit here. Maybe not that much. Okay, and remember, we want to have a little bit of undulation here. So there we go, look at that. So nice and quick there. Nice and quick little action on that. Now one thing I'm going to do actually is just shove a little bit of green stuff here in the gap, because these riders don't exactly fit on here perfectly. Okay, let's not have that big old chunk in there. Let's get this thing shoved down in here just to make sure he doesn't go anywhere. Okay, got that filled in now. Maybe now it looks like it's part of the saddle or part of his clothes or armor or whatever. And this is a little bit softer, a little bit stickier too. That's the more yellow you put in there, the stickier it's going to be. So that's why I wanted the shelf fungus to have a little bit more of the yellow in it. So it'll be softer, easier to sculpt, but also want to stick more. So yeah, the Ender 3 stuff, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to watch tons of, well, I say I gotta have to watch tons of videos on it, but sometimes, I don't know, been watching a lot of stuff about Jitterbugs and other things. Now, the latest video I saw was saying never use the Jitterbug slicer. Use the slicer on your printer. Well, that old Elegoo Mars doesn't have its own slicer on it. So I'm not quite sure what I'm supposed to do with that, but we'll just, I've been having decent success with the Jitterbug slicer, so we're going to keep using that. Oh, wait, let's get our soft tool here. I was going to push some of this again up like so. So you can see there, and so otherwise we'd have this nasty little ridge line in here. We don't want a nasty ridge line in there, right? Here we're also going to push this out just a bit more, if I can, because that'll give me I'm trying to get another fold right in here. It's just the spear is a little bit in the way. Speaking of in the way rolls. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Amish Stig is my settings must be the most conservative settings in all of the printing world, because even that thing of those hands, literally nothing but hands and a couple of spears and stuff, that took almost 4 hours. which I'm sure for some folks with their settings it takes an hour and a half. Oh, thanks, Manzor. I appreciate that. And thanks, though. Thanks for lurking, because lurking, well, it does matter. Twitch counts lurking for sure. So I appreciate you doing the lurking, and I'm glad that you don't mind me doing some sculpting here, because this is just, aside from these being really fun to paint and everything, it's just really fun to just do things like sculpt cloaks and trees and tree fungus and such. So I really do appreciate the lurk and hanging out with me here. So we've got ourselves, yeah, I think next Thursday just might have to be a basing stream. There's just so much stuff that has to get based. There will probably be already some examples, maybe some test figures, or maybe even figures that I did as part of a video. Oh, look at this. More folds here. We extended it tenfold. There you go. Speaking of extending that fold, we're going to extend it even more there. I can also even back it up from the other side. So now we got more folds that are just kind of being pressed underneath other fabric here. Where's my soft tool again? I just stick with water. I know some people use an oil or olive oil, whatever. I just want to be able to get my primer on these things and paint them. So I only ever just use water. Now that's it. Just using the water. Yeah, Landrast, you're not kidding about that, right? Especially those old painting pyramid ones where we're physically just sculpting, well, logs and trees and all this other kind of stuff. And actually, I need to do things like this for the all the more of those wood elf guys. So we'll be sculpting lots of trees. I mean, as much as I love the nature and all that kind of stuff and the sticks and everything, it can be a little bit tough to get those working on a 25 millimeter base. That's the one thing about Lord of the Rings is I just wish they were on 30s even, because even on 30s that would give me some more options for basing. So again, just another fold in here, one more fold in there. If I have a lot of extra money and space, I get the 3D print mill. Yeah, I think a lot of the new printers, don't they like come with curing stations and all other kinds of super snazzy stuff? I mean, we are pretty much in the dark ages of the printing here. Landdress, it's the raw umber goes in between, was it indigo and the ivory black? Or the burnt umber, sorry. Now, I do have raw umber. I have a bunch of containers of it. I really don't know why. I just kind of got away from it. I don't know why. It used to be all the time. I might just try it again just for the heck of it. Oh, you know what? Maybe we'll try raw. Remind me tomorrow maybe to put raw umber out there and we see how it does on some of our wargs here. So maybe we should give that a try. Who knows? Maybe we're even painting one of our eagles. Maybe we're painting one of our eagles tomorrow too. I don't know. It could be a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, Valendar the Red. Apparently, I just like my paint raw and wriggling for the most part because we're using Terra Rosa, which is unbaked pigment red 101. We pretty much turn away from the burnt sienna, which is cooked pigment red 101. So yeah, apparently we like it raw and wriggling here. Here, let's get some of this green stuff out of the way. Don't need this here on the saddle. Let's push it this way. And like so. And then grab our little pokey tool again here and really just put this down. There we go. Let's see. Yep, Landrest. I think that could be interesting. Just like with the cobalt blue. Remember, where's Mr. Giggles here? That was just I couldn't find phthalo blue, right? I literally couldn't find phthalo blue. I said, "Oh, what the heck? We'll just use cobalt blue. Let's see what happens." And all of a sudden, next thing you know, it's back on the menu, right? Just like that dwarf was back on the menu. All of a sudden, cobalt blue back on the palette again for, here it was again, our latest. This is our latest Patreon video that we just did here. It was an exercise in, well, multiple light sources, different color light sources. Also, do an object source lighting with no fluorescent paints whatsoever. And let me fix that. Yeah, it's kind of like meat. And hey, Mage Tales, how you doing? Thanks for joining us, Mage Tales. And well, happy Friday to you, because well, now it's 2:34 in the morning here. Keep looking over there. I keep thinking it's gonna say it's like midnight or 11:30 or something, which is weird because well, practically haven't gotten any sleep at all this week. A little bit of west coasting out there. Well, heck, I think it's yeah, it's not even midnight yet for our moderator. The night is still very much young out there. And folks, always be sure to check out Armored Wolf's Etsy page, because we also have to support our moderator here. I get to have all the fun with the sculpting stuff. He is one who just loves doing sculpting. So in addition to checking out the Armored Wolf Etsy page for all the dice bags and such, be sure to also look at Armored Wolf's Instagram for all these spectacular miniatures that he has painted. And some incredible, talk about the sculpting all kinds of intricate things on trees and everything else, and lots of details. So again, our little shaper tool right here is really just so handy. Absolutely like this. Now, I think we've used this one, and then there's not this one. This is the one. This is the other one. I think we even use this on our, yeah, we use this on our Rohan guys too, especially on the super soft cloth. Yeah, I think on the softest parts of it we use that too. Alright, we'll take this further down. Again, using that nice little soft, smushy. So we're going to pull the whole thing this way. Almost pull it out, pull it underneath this a little bit. Yes. It would be easier if it was that yellow, more yellow. Where's our guy once again? I might mix up some of that that really soft stuff here. So I got some of this. Oh, good. I got some of this. I'm going to mix up something that's really, 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 really soft here. See what kind of details that we might be able to do with this here. Mage Tales, haven't heard of Throne of Blood. Well, I don't, I don't see many movies, as in I might see one movie every 5 or 6 years or something like that. Yeah, I don't really get to see too many movies at all. I think I got a little more green that I can add to this. I mean, that is quite yellow there. Now the thing is, the more of this that you add here, it's going to change the cure time, of course. Definitely going to change that cure time. Now, do I need to add some more to the front of the cloak there? No. Let's grab our other one here. I think this is where I was tempted to try and use some of this. Boy, that's really sticky too. Holy smokes. That is very, very sticky. So that kind of changes the consistency a little bit here. All right, let's grab our super smushy tool here. Like so. And you can tell that really kind of integrates very quickly. All right, I think we've got that placed. Start pushing it from below here. And then from above. And that's kind of, now it's not like it's mixing, say, in the same way our Apoxie Sculpt would. But what this is going to do is going to give us yet another bit of a fold to work with here. Each time I can come over here from below and see how we're doing that same fold from underneath. Okay, I got the right one here. So see, we pushed from underneath before, and we're doing that again over here, again to make more of a fold underneath there. Flatten this out again. So I know it looks a little bit weird. There's all of a sudden this blob of yellow right here. Okay, we have to push this back out again. There's a little bit of pushing and pulling here when it comes to, especially when you want to make things like the folds in the cloak. Well, you know what? I'm going to push this back a little bit too here. I might even separate that from the horse just a smidge. It's like I'm almost peeling it back off of the horse here, off of the saddle and the barding of the horse. Not using the metal tool, because if I use that metal tool there's going to be a whole bunch of just really nasty lines right there. We don't want that. So I can feel this stuff definitely is much more cured than it was. Now, unlike the Apoxie Sculpt, with the green stuff, you reach a point where you're done. Yeah, you might be able to push it around a little bit, but that's about it. Whereas with the Apoxie Sculpt, boy, you can keep working with it forever, and once it's done, you can carve it, you can sand it, you can do all kinds of fun stuff to it, which you can't do with green stuff. So that's sort of the downside with the green stuff. There's no post sculpting unless you just add more to it. But with the Epoxy Sculpt, you can go in there with a X-Acto knife or wood carving tools. Even actually, I got a new carving. Actually, I got to find out where the heck those things just went. But it was a new wood carving set of tools from Green Stuff World, and I got to see what the heck those are gonna do. I have no idea. They just showed up unannounced. Like so many products where I just have to kind of figure out what the heck it is that I'm looking at. So here we're going to take this. It's almost like we're using like a very, very soft rolling pin here. Look at that, very soft rolling pin. We're just going to do this, but now you can almost have it follow the texture of his tail here. pretty darn close to that. Gonna flatten that out just a smidge. Extend the cloak out this way. Lift this up just a little bit again right here. So I think does it, yeah, you can see just right here. See how it kind of, this is tracking the flow of the tail right there. They're soft tool. I don't want to use that really hard tool that I've been using for all these nice sharp edges here. That's what it does well. Soft stuff like this, not so much. Timing is everything. The reason I waited longer to do this part of it is if I did this too early, it would have just all been kind of smashed, and it would have followed that a little bit too much. I didn't want that much of the texture from the tail on there. A little, yes, not too much. So we got ourselves a nice supported cloak. It looks like it's, you know, the wind is taking it and blowing this off of him here. Now at this point, where's my, there's my dark rider over there. I'm going to see if I can finish off this thing a bit more here. Everything on here is very flexible. I mean, that is really, really flexible right there. It's a pretty darn thin part. The one thing I can see with the Diwali games is that their supports are probably not the most spectacular. Ah, forget it. Don't like that. We'll have to just figure out something else there. Well, actually, that's easier. I'm just gonna make a whole new rein for that. Probably should have just done that in the first place. Actually, let's see, dudes. I'm trying to think if I haven't done the Dark Angel thing. Actually, I've made a whole bunch of. Well, I think you saw maybe the. Can check it out on the blog where I converted a whole bunch of Space Wolf Terminators into Grey Knight Terminators. That was back in, I think, 2007, 2008, something like that. That's you can go check that out on the blog. Just look under Demon Hunters, and that's in the Demon Hunters army there. You should be able to find that. Okay, so now we've got ourselves something's got a little bit more of the blue in it as well. But dude, it would be very much like what we're doing here, right? You would have that initial, basically what looks like a sheet, right? And then we would be pushing it around, creating the folds the same way. Let's get you attached here. And not to me. And that is definitely one of those interesting things about the green stuff. It's always going to want to attach to everything except the place you want it to go. But we finally have an attachment here. Well, we had one. And it was just sticky enough, or the tool had just a lack of water on it, which made it also, again, sticky enough. And it's one of those things where chicken and egg, because we want water on the tool so that it doesn't stick to the tool. But as you can see, too much water means it ain't going to stick to the tool. But it'll definitely stick to me. Just sometimes sculpting is as much comedy as it is anything else. We're almost there. And now we we finally have a bit of an attachment point here. And we're going to get rid of this. Hopefully also not losing our green stuff there. There is one other option here. And you basically create yourself some green stuff glue over here. And a little smidge over, because this is really the difficult part here, because that bit of the hand broke away. And if I can just get a little bit of green stuff to stick on there. And over here, those potentially act a little bit like glue. Now what's interesting here, it's interesting to see that on this one, and it's the same resin. That is weird that it will stick like crazy on the elves, but it does not want to stick on here at all. We'll try it again here. So again, we've got it attached there. No, it just doesn't want to do that, so we're just not going to have that happening then. I will just take some of this and we'll use it for shelf moss over here. That's going to go all the way over to this side. Hopefully this doesn't have too much Apoxie Sculpt on it. Sometimes after you use your Apoxie Sculpt, you have to literally file your tools off and get all the Apoxie Sculpt off of there once it's dried. So this is another case where there's a lot of water here. The water will keep things from sticking, but it also will keep things from sticking, which can giveth and taketh away all at the same time. Because there's times you would really like it to actually stick to something, like our reins over there, and it did not want to stick at all. And at first I was thinking, well, maybe it's something with this printing resin, but I said no. We have been sculpting on that very same resin for half of the evening here, so there's that. Speaking of sculpting for half the evening, I'm going to take a look at our birdie over here. So this is what we had started with tonight. I'm just going to do a little check here of, okay. Wow, that's, yeah, you can even hear, you can even hear the sound of that. So we could, in theory, also maybe do a little bit of a either Apoxie Sculpt or green stuff here. I might actually just try some green stuff because why not? Let's try ourselves some green stuff here. Now this is going to have more of the blue in it. It'll look a little bit weird. Some green feathers on there, but let's do it anyway. Yeah, I might just add a little more of my yellow to that. This is going to be pretty much neutral here. Yeah, this is kind of like down the middle as far as just how much green and blue or yellow and blue there is. That's pretty much down the middle there. And what I'm going to try and do is just get some more extension on these tail feathers here. First task is to get that stuff to stick on there, which it looks like we just did. Let's do a couple more of these guys if we can. So again, we've been sculpting these for the last couple of weeks here. And we're just trying to get these guys finished off so that we can put them on their big old flying bases and then get these guys painted. So getting the more of that yellow stuff you got in there, the stickier it's going to be. Which again can be a good thing, but it can also be a teensy bit annoying. And we need to add one more feather in here at least. Let's do that here. So yeah, I can actually handle this. This is I actually started sculpting it 3.5 hours ago. It is not completely set, but it is set enough that I can do some of these other things, and if my hand actually hits it or grazes it, not really going to wipe it out or anything. I might actually just, here, I'm going to make sure I've got some of this out here to work with. But now I've got to do the thing where I kind of build up the height of the feather, just like we did over here. Okay. So now we've got ourselves a shelf for this feather here. We've got ourselves a little bit more of this we can use. Now actually I have to add one more round edge here to this other feather. Really need to do that here. I'd hoped to avoid that, but I think we just need it anyway. And that's something that I might sculpt extra stuff on later. Ooh. I put down one tool and then grabbed another tool, and I could hear it stick. I could hear the pinging sound of that tool sticking on there. I went, oops, grabbed the wrong one. So here we're going to take this feather. So you can see how much we've added to this. And yeah, we got to do the feathers on the underside as well. Here, why don't we push this out this way? What I actually think I'm going to do to finish this thing off is I might actually just do the rest of it in a video. I think I'm going to do that. Just do it in a video. Just a regular recorded video. Now, we talked about being able to carve the epoxy sculpt here. Well, this is what we mean here. Got the old X-Acto knife out. And we're just kind of sculpting here with a little bit of removal. And we might just take away a little bit more here. There we go. And we're going to just take away a little bit more here. I could file that, sand it, whatever. But that is all cured epoxy sculpt. So you could say we almost could treat it like it was wood or something. Okay, I think we're almost, yeah, I think we've got this. There we go. That is what we needed here. On our little tail feathers, or maybe not so little. I think we we got these feathers, one sort of tucked under the other. It's just like this texture we sculpted right here. Same thing. Okay. Now, unlike the Apoxie Sculpt, when we add water to this, all it does is just mean that the green stuff's kind of slippery, but that's about it. Whereas with the Apoxie Sculpt, this much water, it almost kind of breaks it down. That's why I always say that Apoxie Sculpt kind of has milliput type properties to it, but it's got green stuff properties as well. To me, it's kind of the sort of the best of both. Doesn't have the kind of crazy rubberiness of green stuff, but it doesn't completely disintegrate the way milliput does. It's also nowhere near as brittle. It's strong. It's really strong. That's why I like using it for scratch sculpting things. All of that, like the lizard man that we sculpted, right? Those engines of the god, the Tomb King stuff that I sculpted back in the day. It was mostly Epoxy Sculpt, while also working with tinfoil and sculpey armatures too. So look at that. That, again, this is speaking of sculpey armatures, that's what this is right here. It's literally just a sculpey armature. You can go back and watch the Great Beast of Gilgaroth. That was one of the first scratch sculpt that we did. And we were definitely relying on the tinfoil and sculpey armature. Now here, this is not so much about sculpting. I just want to make sure these are attached here. So I'm just extending this out here so that it is most definitely attached. I don't care about anything else. See, if that was Epoxy Sculpt, that wouldn't just shred away like that. See, with the green stuff, it kind of shreds a little bit, especially when you get that extra amount of water on it. That doesn't happen with the Epoxy Sculpt. So I would say it's much easier to integrate it into another surface or a new surface. But those feathers were mighty short. There really wasn't much of a feather there at all. All of a sudden, now we've got ourselves some feathers here. And I think I just still have a smidge of green stuff left that I can use over here. I either have to carve this in or sculpt this in. And I don't know, maybe actually I'm going to try and carve that in. Let's see what kind of a wood carving. I'm just going to reach into this thing and see which tools come out here. Maybe this one could work here. And I'm just going to shave a little bit of this away here. There's barely any pressure on this. That's why I'm not worried about slicing myself or anything, because again, barely any pressure. Alright, I'm going to do the rest now with that little bit of green stuff that I see sitting over here. No, that's too big of a clump. I want the smaller one here. There we go. So the Epoxy Sculpt, way easier to just kind of blend it together. But this also has a little more initial stability. That's the downside of the Epoxy Sculpt. When you first put it on there, it's pretty darn smushy, which is why I put this on here actually probably 20-something minutes before we started. Outlandish, we still have the Oliphant. We still have him. We still got the Oliphant. He's going to be hard to show underneath the screen here because the camera is much closer, but there's our Oliphant there. Yep, working on that for our Harad forces, amongst other things. Okay, so we can set this off to the side now. Don't want to be messing that guy up. And let's go back to our... I want to see what's happening with this here. Now we can really start to move this some more here. That's good. Now, too much water. That new piece might be inclined to come off. So I'm actually just going to grab myself a little bit of a paper towel here or something. Get some of the excess water off of there. I think that was the very first Sculpting Thursday. Actually, it wasn't the Rohan guys, was it? It was the Oliphant. Because I think it was all about conversion. That's what it was. It was Conversion Thursday more than necessarily Sculpting Thursday, I think, at the time. Here, we'll push some of this right down to here. So we weren't trying to extend this fold, we were trying to add another new fold underneath that. Again, from underneath here. Build up a fold this way now. Much better. We'll make that fold even deeper here. And that, again, the idea is the more yellow that you've got in your grain stuff changes that consistency. You saw how sticky it made it. I mean, it just was really sticking to absolutely everything. But it does make it easier to do some of those super fine details. Like on a face, you need to sculpt an eyelash or an eyebrow or something like that. That's the kind of green stuff you're going to be using. Now here, I'm going to push this down a smidge. Because remember, we wanted this fold to be tucked underneath here. We did that on the left shoulder, not the other one. Here, we're doing that on this right shoulder. I'm literally using this to just do a little bit of a cut right there, and then we're going to push this out this way. So all of the folds having different shapes, different sizes, different widths and such. Yeah, so hopefully I can find what the heck happened to all the left hands of the elves with all of their shields, because I just have no idea where the heck they are. It's crazy. So let's see now. Stila was doing hers for 12 hours. If she started at 6, that means she's only got about 3 hours left to her stream, I think. So we want to make sure that we can raid her while she's well, hopefully still alive. I see she's still doing her thing. I'm gonna go back to my other one now. Avocado Kids, thank you very much, because I could really use this right now. The voice was definitely going there. Lurcado Village is done. And time for bed and shutting it down. Well, Avocado Kids, thank you so much. Hopefully we see it tomorrow night so we can hang out and we can paint all kinds of... I have no idea. We could be painting wargs, eagles. Who knows what the heck we're going to be painting tomorrow. It could just be a whole bunch of different things. But thanks again, Avocado Kids. So Landras, the that thing. I know she was resting it. She said on her table, but I think you can only do so much, right? And I wonder if that's just really starting to get to her. Cause well, I mean, this thing here. Now was hers printed hollow? Cause this thing was printed hollow, and this practically weighs nothing. I'm serious. My one of my eagles almost. If you put my eagle on that base right there, the flying base, it weighs probably about as much as this does, and that's all solid. This is not solid. That is all. And his walls. I mean, this is incredibly thick. Next time I might not make it so thick. Now that I know that there's supports on the inside. So yeah, I think I could probably save myself even some more resin there. Now that I know. All right, avocado kids, thanks. Thank you so much again. I appreciate that as always. All right, what is going on with this right here? I think I'm gonna just use this as kind of a rolling pin. Ah, okay. It's like what the heck? What texture is it picking up here? It's picking up this. See these two parts of the barding there? That's what it's picking up. Oh, thanks, avocado kids. So looking forward to getting back into the oils again tomorrow, and I guess we're gonna be trying a color that has not been out on the palette in a long, long time. I did do. It was part of a color theory video that I did on the oil paints for the Patreon page. Boy, it might be difficult to. Oh, wait. We might just be able to get to it here. There's yellow ochre, burnt umber. Nope. There's your burnt umber. That's your sienna there. Why can't I find it here? Don't think I can, unfortunately. Yeah, it was one of these type of things. We did burnt umber and raw umber next to each other. But that should be interesting. Well, especially since we're doing all those wargs and everything. Now, I had wanted for Angmar to do more of a snow type of thing, or more of a winter type theme. Kind of that whole Northlands type of deal. I don't know, maybe we still do that. Don't know yet. I thought maybe some of the wargs could be white wargs or something like that, unless I just want the warg beast. Oh, there was that. I gotta find that old white dwarf article. That's what I gotta find. I have to find that. Not sure if I could find that by tomorrow. It's kind of buried in all those other old white dwarfs there. Okay. I'll push that just this way a smidge here. So look at how that, remember that was literally just like a big, it looked like another hood. It looked like a hood attached to a hood. And all of these folds all came from that same bit, that same piece right there. So what I might actually do then is maybe try to raid Stila here so that we can, well, at least it can be company for a little bit there since her hand is kind of hurting and stuff. And we did promise her that we would raid. I actually have been doing this for almost 4 hours too. And we're going to be streaming again in like 17 hours anyway. So we're going to be painting a whole bunch of stuff here. We might even be painting one of our eagles too. It's like, come on, man, paint me. What the heck's going on here? Will you? Give me some paint. So, folks, thanks again to our moderator, Armored Wolf, who has been here all this time, working really hard on his stuff too. We got ourselves some more green stuff cloaks here, right? Green stuff cloaks, no fuss, no muss. Got ourselves some nice elves with some nice, shiny new cloaks. So I'm going to start our little countdown over here. Looks like she's still painting him. So here we're going to start our countdown, and thanks again everybody for hanging out. I really do appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow. And then again on Saturday. Saturday we got another marathon session, at least 10 and a half hours or so. So I will hopefully see you guys then.